Chapter 48-36. There were very few who had reached the age of 30. The main reason was that if people over 30 participated, it would make their own race look weak. They didn't send too many people over the age of 30. If they sent someone over the age of 40 or 50, wouldn't that be bullying? Of course, there were some people in their 40s or 50s who entered the arena, but they didn't perform well. One could imagine that if they were truly talented, they would reach the 4th level of the Emperor level before the age of 30. Very few people would be stuck at the 4th level for the next 20 years. Even people at the Evil Prince's level would only be slightly stuck at this stage. After exploring the primary ruins a few more times, he would have broken through. Unfortunately, he met Kong Shin-mu, so he lost the opportunity to continue improving. Many people at the 4th level of the Emperor level who were in their 40s or 50s basically didn't have much strength. Even if there were some cultivators who were stuck at the 4th layer of the Emperor level, they would always be stuck at the 4th layer of the Emperor level. They planned to explore primary ruins for a living. However, these cultivators were basically not very talented or did not have much cultivation resources. This kind of cultivator would be quite old by the time they reached the 4th layer of the Emperor realm. They wouldn't have the time to cultivate anything else. Many races cultivated many seniors who were stuck at the 4th level of the Emperor level to explore primary ruins. However, these seniors were all over 50 years old, so they couldn't participate in this arena battle. Of course, this meant that they were at the 4th level of the Emperor level. If they were at the 9th level of the Emperor level, then it would be different. That was the true gathering of geniuses. The 4th level of the Emperor level was like a child's play to Kong Shin-mu. He could easily win the championship by participating in it. He was mainly thinking about the 9th level of the Emperor level. That was the real highlight of the tournament. Moreover, the rewards would be much higher than the 4th level of the Martial Emperor stage. As long as one didn't exceed the 9th level of the Emperor level, they could participate in the 9th level of the Emperor level. However, if one didn't have super confidence in his strength, he would only participate if he had reached the 9th level. Otherwise, he might be killed in the arena. When the list of the top 4 came out, the order of the top 4 battles was quickly decided by the supreme level experts by drawing lots. The lot drawn by Emperor Shi was really poisonous. In this match, Kong Shin-mu would fight against Xiao Bai, while the 6-winged heavenly fiend Celestial would fight against the demon god clan expert. This made Kong Shin-mu want to cry. When Emperor Shi returned and told him the results of the drawing, he sighed and said, "Kong Shin-mu, you have eliminated 3 of your own people. But it's my fault. I shouldn't have gone up to draw lots. Qingjia, I should have let you go." The Dragon of Azure Sky Calamity felt helpless as well. These are all people from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. If I were to go and draw a lot like yours, wouldn't I be asking for trouble? Kong Shin-mu was also helpless. First, Ran Ran was matched against him, then it was Xiao Yuhua, then it was Xiao Bai. This was simply a scam. Kong Shin-mu was very upset, but there was nothing he could do. For this match, Xiao Bai could only give up. She had even used all her trump cards in the previous match. To be honest, even if Kong Shin-mu let her win this match, she would not be able to compete with the 6-winged heavenly fiend Celestial for the championship. Xiao Bai knew her own limits. It was already very good for her to reach the top 4. Of course, if she were to meet the demon god clan expert next, she might still be able to win. No matter what, even if she admitted defeat now, she might still be able to get 3rd place. If I become the champion, I will share all the rewards with you. Anyway, I still have to participate in the next arena battle. Kong Shin-mu said directly to Xiao Bai and the others. Xiao Bai, Xiao Yuhua, and Ran Ran had all met Kong Shin-mu and admitted defeat. Since that was the case, it was normal for Kong Shin-mu to compensate them with some rewards. They had a share of the championship. Of course, since all 3 of them had compensated, Kong Shin-mu would not favor one and discriminate against the other. Although Liang Xiao was defeated by the 6-winged heavenly fiend Celestial, he naturally had to treat all of them equally. He would just give him some rewards. This made Liang Xiao burst into tears. As for the 3 girls, they did not particularly care. In any case, they had each obtained a ranking and they had already received a lot of rewards. Following that, just as everyone had expected, the 6-winged heavenly fiend Celestial defeated the demon god clan expert with one move. However, the next round was not a battle for the championship. Instead, the last 8 of the top 16 would fight to determine the top 2. From there, the 9th and 10th place would be decided. Then the last 4 of the top 8 would fight with each other to determine the 5th to 8th place. Then, Xiaobai would fight with the Demon God Clan expert to determine the 3rd and 4th place. Finally, the battle for the championship. During this time, Kong Xinmu directly began to rest. The following battles did not have much to do with him. In other words, when Ran Ran, Liang Xiao, Xiaobai, and Xiao Yuhua fought, he could take a look. After 1.5 hours, these battles were all over. The final results were, Ran Ran was 9th, Xiao Yuhua was 5th, Liang Xiao was 6th, and Xiaobai was 3rd. There was no doubt that unless they encountered an opponent like Kong Xinmu or the 6-winged heavenly fiend Celestial, Ran Ran, Xiaobai, and the others were still very strong. 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 9th places were already very terrifying. Moreover, there was still Kong Xinmu fighting for 1st and 2nd place. Even if Kong Xinmu obtained 2nd place, the Dragon Gods would still be considered to have won a great victory. 5 of the top 10 were from the Dragon Gods. This was already very terrifying. Gu Litian, on the other hand, was heavily injured by the Laughing Flower's blazing dragon pillar and was unable to participate in the battle. Hence, he was ranked 15th. The reason why he was ranked 15th and not 16th was because the other person was killed when he advanced to the top 8. There was no other way. Being seriously injured was better than being dead. Therefore, Gu Litian was ranked 15th. However, there seemed to be no difference between the 15th and 16th place. The reward was the same, and it was only a consolation prize. In the last 16 places, the 6 people who did not enter the top 10 would only receive consolation prizes. They would receive cultivation resources worth 1,000 gold dragon coins as a reward. It was better than nothing. After this, the final battle between Kong Xinmu and the 6-winged heavenly fiend Celestial began. Chapter 48-37. Kong Xinmu stood in the arena. He had yet to transform into his black divine dragon form. His intention was for the 16-winged heavenly demonic god not to transform either. However, what appeared in front of him was still the body of the 16-winged heavenly demonic god that was thousands of feet tall. That slender pitch-black body, although the body of a demonic god, was also endlessly beautiful. It made people feel some primitive urges. "What's your name?" Kong Xinmu still did not know the other party's name, so he asked. "My name is Xueqi." The voice of the 16-winged heavenly demonic god was full of temptation and tingling. Finally, Kong Xinmu knew her name. "All right." Kong Xinmu nodded and transformed into his black divine dragon form. In this battle, he might have to go all out to defeat the other party. After all, his cultivation level was several levels lower than the other party's. This difference was huge. It should be known that the other party had defeated 2 reincarnation behemoths every time she broke through her cultivation level and condensed the power of reincarnation. Therefore, there was a gap of 4 or 5 levels between him and the other party. This was already a huge gap. If it wasn't for the fact that Kong Xinmu had a greater advantage in other aspects, he did not even think that he was a match for the other party. However, just as the battle was about to begin, the talented girl named Xueqi, who had inherited the 16-winged heavenly demonic god's inheritance, suddenly pursed her lips and said, "I admit defeat in this battle. Kong Xinmu, why did you let me win in the arena? In that case, I, Xueqi, will not take advantage of you. I will let you win this time. We are even now." When these words were said, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Originally, everyone wanted to see the fierce battle between the two of them. After all, their combat strength had already surpassed that of ordinary level 4 martial emperors. Ordinary people couldn't compare to them. This kind of combat strength wasn't something that could be easily seen. Most importantly, these two were the strongest young talents of the Dragon God race and the Demon God race. The battle between the two of them was likely to affect some of the races in the future. This was more important, but at this time, the Demon God race's Xueqi actually said that he would voluntarily give up and admit defeat? And just because Kong Xinmu had admitted defeat to her once before? She didn't want to take advantage of others, so she admitted defeat and called it even with Kong Xinmu. However, Jiang Xinwu had done so during the arena battles, when he was fighting for the final 16 spots in the arena battles. How could that be compared to the current situation? To be honest, even if Kong Xinmu hadn't admitted defeat to Xueqi, Xueqi would have been able to stand on one of the arenas until the end. The reason why she chose Kong Xinmu was because she wanted to have a showdown with Kong Xinmu, right? But now, on the stage of the finals, she actually took the initiative to admit defeat to Kong Xinmu. Just what was Xueqi thinking? Kong Xinmu didn't expect Xueqi to directly admit defeat and couldn't help but be a little startled. But soon, Xueqi pursed her lips and smiled. Her slender demon god body had a different kind of charm when she smiled. Don't misunderstand. I'm not really admitting defeat to you. It's just that I'm giving up for this battle. I'll let you be the champion of this arena battle. But it doesn't end here. Looking at your plan, you should be participating in the 9th level Martial Emperor's arena battle, right? In this arena battle, I'll be waiting for you. As soon as these words were said, Kong Xinmu's expression became a little serious. He didn't expect Xueqi to also want to participate in the 9th level Martial Emperor's arena battle. Originally, he thought that he was the only one like this. Although the reward for the 4th level Martial Emperor's arena battle wasn't much, it was still not bad. Xueqi actually didn't want the champion's reward and was willing to hand over the championship to someone else. It seemed that Xueqi didn't care about these cultivation resources. She just didn't want to owe Kong Xinmu anything. Even if no one would think that she owed Kong Xinmu anything, she seemed to have an obsessive-compulsive disorder. She just wanted to return the favor to Kong Xinmu once. She even gave the championship to Kong Xinmu. Jiang Xinwu was baffled, but at the same time, he also felt a sense of threat. Xueqi actually wanted to participate in the 9th level Martial Emperor's arena battle. Obviously, Xueqi would be a very big opponent for him. According to the rules of the arena battle, it was very likely that as long as Kong Xinmu went up, Xueqi would challenge him. At that time, Xueqi's strength would become even stronger and more terrifying than it was now. Furthermore, as a member of the Demon God tribe's royal family, she had a lot of cultivation resources. Who knew what kind of breakthroughs and improvements she would make in the next period of time? Perhaps she would even improve more than Kong Xinmu? No matter what, Kong Xinmu was now on high alert. This Xueqi was truly a formidable opponent. Of course, no matter what, there would be many 9th level martial emperors to fight against. For someone like Shangguandai in this arena battle, she would only be equivalent to Xiao Bai in the 4th level martial emperor's arena battle, perhaps even lower than Xiao Bai. There were just too many 9th level martial emperors. It wouldn't be easy for Kong Xinmu to enter the top 16. Simply put, Kong Xinmu wouldn't even be able to defeat Shangguandai. As for Shangguandai amongst the 9th level Martial Emperor's arena battle participants, her strength would only be able to rank in the top 50, and she wouldn't be able to enter the higher levels. No matter what, the upcoming 9th level Martial Emperor's arena battle was the place where he could truly prove himself. This was true for Kong Xinmu, and it was also true for Xueqi. Therefore, this 4th level Martial Emperor's arena battle ended with Xueqi's forfeit. Regarding this, the Supreme Martial Emperor from the Demon God tribe seemed very helpless. Of course, he wanted to obtain the champion's reward, but since Xueqi was so willful, he couldn't do anything about it. After all, Xueqi was one of the juniors he liked the most. On the other hand, many 9th level martial emperors from the various tribes were somewhat displeased at this moment. These 9th level martial emperors were the powerhouses who would be participating in the arena battle. As there was no age limit, the powerhouses participating this time were all 9th level martial emperors' top powerhouses. Even many talented cultivators had been stuck at 9th level martial emperors for a very long time. Compared to 4th level martial emperors, there were many more who were stuck at 9th level martial emperors. If one wanted to forcefully break through to 4th level martial emperors, they didn't need a lot of cultivation resources. Therefore, those who were stuck at this level voluntarily, and there was basically no one who was naturally stuck at this level. However, 9th level martial emperors were different. Chapter 48-43. Kong Xinmu stood in the arena and did not transform into his black divine dragon form yet. His intention was for the 16-winged heavenly demonic god not to transform either. However, what appeared in front of him was still the body of the 16-winged heavenly demonic god. That slender pitch-black body, although the body of a demonic god, was still endlessly beautiful. It made people feel some primitive urges. What is your name? Kong Xinmu still did not know the other party's name, so he asked. My name is Xueqi. The voice of the 16-winged heavenly demonic god was full of temptation. It was so alluring that Kong Xinmu finally knew her name. All right. Kong Xinmu nodded and transformed into his black divine dragon form. He might have to go all out to defeat the other party in this battle. After all, his cultivation level was several levels lower than the other parties. This was a huge gap. It should be known that the other party had defeated 2 reincarnation behemoths every time she broke through her cultivation level and condensed the power of reincarnation. Therefore, there was a gap of 4 or 5 levels between him and the other party. This was already a huge gap. If not for the fact that Kong Shin-mu had a greater advantage in other aspects, he did not even think that he would be a match for the other party. However, just as the battle was about to begin, the talented girl named Xueqi, who had the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demonic god, suddenly pursed her lips and said, "I admit defeat in this battle. Kong Shin-mu, why did you let me win in the arena? Since that is the case, I, Xueqi, will not take advantage of you. I will let you win this time. We are even now." When these words were said, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Originally, everyone wanted to see the fierce battle between the two of them. After all, their combat strength had already surpassed that of ordinary level 4 martial emperors. Ordinary people couldn't compare to them. This kind of combat strength wasn't something that could be easily seen. Most importantly, these two were the strongest young talents of the dragon god race and the demon god race. The battle between the two of them was very likely to affect the situation of some races in the future. This was more important, but at this time, the demon god race's Xueqi actually said that he would voluntarily give up and admit defeat? And just because Kong Shin-mu had admitted defeat to her once before? She didn't want to take advantage of others, so she admitted defeat and called it even with Kong Shin-mu. However, Jiang Xinwu had done so during the arena battles, when he was fighting for the final 16 spots in the arena battles. How could that be compared to the current situation? To be honest, even if Kong Shin-mu hadn't admitted defeat to Xueqi would have been able to stand on one of the arenas until the end. The reason why she chose Kong Shin-mu was because she wanted to have a showdown with Kong Shin-mu, right? But now, on the stage of the finals, she actually took the initiative to admit defeat to Kong Shin-mu. Just what was Xueqi thinking? Kong Shin-mu didn't expect Xueqi to directly admit defeat. He couldn't help but be a little startled. But soon, Xueqi pursed her lips and smiled. Her slender demon god body had a different kind of charm when she smiled. Don't misunderstand. I'm not really admitting defeat to you. It's just that I'm giving up for this battle. I'll let you be the champion of this arena battle. But it doesn't end here. Looking at your plan, you should be participating in the arena battle of the 9th level martial emperors, right? In this arena battle, I'll be waiting for you. As soon as these words were said, Kong Shin-mu's expression became a little serious. He didn't expect Xueqi to also want to participate in the arena battle of the 9th level martial emperors. Originally, he thought that he was the only one like this. Although the rewards for the 4th level martial emperor's arena battle weren't much, they weren't small either. Xueqi actually didn't want the champion's reward and was willing to hand over the championship to someone else. It seemed that Xueqi didn't care about these cultivation resources. She just didn't want to owe Kong Shin-mu anything. Even if no one would think that she owed Kong Shin-mu anything, she seemed to have an obsessive-compulsive disorder. She just wanted to return the favor to Kong Shin-mu once. She even gave the championship to Kong Shin-mu. Jiang Xinwu was baffled, but at the same time, he also felt a sense of threat. Xueqi actually wanted to participate in the arena battle of the 9th level martial emperor's arena battle. Obviously, Xueqi would be a very big opponent for him. According to the rules of the arena battle, it was very likely that as long as Kong Shin-mu went up, Xueqi would challenge him. At that time, Xueqi's strength would become even stronger and more terrifying than it was now. Furthermore, as a member of the demon god tribe's royal family, she had a lot of cultivation resources. Who knew what kind of breakthroughs and improvements she would make in the next period of time? Perhaps she would even improve more than Kong Shin-mu? No matter what, Kong Shin-mu was now on high alert. This Xueqi was truly a formidable opponent. Of course, no matter what, there would be many opponents at the 9th level of the martial emperor's level. For someone like Shangguan Dai in this arena battle, she would only be equivalent to Xiao Bai in the 4th level martial emperor's arena battle, perhaps even lower than Xiao Bai's level. There were just too many 9th level martial emperors. It wouldn't be easy for Kong Shin-mu to even enter the top 16. To put it simply, Kong Shin-mu wouldn't even be able to defeat Shangguan Dai. As for Shangguan Dai amongst the participants of the 9th level martial emperor's arena battle, Her strength would only be able to rank in the top 50, and she wouldn't be able to enter the higher levels. No matter what, the upcoming 9th level Martial Emperor's arena battle would be the place where he could truly prove himself. This was true for Kong Xinmu, and it was also true for Xueqi. Therefore, this 4th level Martial Emperor's arena battle ended with Xu Ye's forfeit. Regarding this, the supreme powerhouse of the demon god tribe seemed to be very helpless. Of course, he wanted to obtain the champion's reward, but Xueqi was so willful that he couldn't do anything about it. After all, Xueqi was one of the juniors he liked the most. On the other hand, many 9th level martial emperors from the various tribes were somewhat displeased at this moment. These 9th level martial emperors were the powerhouses who were going to participate in the arena battle. As there was no age limit, the powerhouses participating this time were all top 9th level martial emperors. Even many talented cultivators had been stuck at the 9th level for a long time. Compared to the 4th level martial emperors, there were many more who were stuck at the 9th level. If one wanted to forcefully break through to the 4th level of the martial emperors, they didn't need a lot of cultivation resources. Therefore, they were stuck at this level on their own accord, and there was basically no one who was naturally stuck at this level. However, 9th level martial emperors were different. Chapter 48-44. How strong would his opponents be in the arena battles of the 9th level of the Emperor stage? Kong Xinmu didn't know, but Shangguan Dai was enough to tell him. To him, this was a great challenge, an ultimate challenge. It was very likely that he would only be able to defeat some of the weaker guys. However, as long as he could gain something from this arena battle, he would be able to fight against the 5th grade disciple, Luoen, when he returned to the holy lands of the 5 extremes mysterious ice in the Dragon God's world. Luoen was at the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor stage. Of course, Luoen was considered one of the stronger ones in the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have almost become a 6th grade disciple in the holy land of 5 extremes mysterious ice. Luoen could be said to be at the peak of the 9th level of the Emperor stage. However, if he were to participate in the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor stage, it would be difficult for Luoen to stand in the last 16 arenas. Therefore, even if Kong Xinmu achieved some results in the arena battle, he might still be able to defeat Luoen. However, as long as he could achieve some results in the arena battle, he would definitely be able to defeat Luoen. There was no doubt about that. The first arena battle was over. With Xu Ye's forfeit, Kong Xinmu became the champion of the arena battle. He would receive the equivalent of 30,000 gold dragon coins as a reward. However, he would directly distribute these 30,000 gold dragon coins to Xiao Yuhua and the others. As for the rewards that they would receive, Kong Xinmu didn't care about them. In any case, no one would complain about having too many cultivation resources. The more cultivation resources they had, the better. This way, the strength of the Kong Xinmu team would become stronger and stronger. As for Kong Xinmu himself, what he lacked now was not cultivation resources, but time. He needed time to improve himself. Therefore, in the upcoming arena battles of the 9th level of the Emperor stage, Kong Xinmu had a very serious plan. He planned to use the heaven-deficient demonic ice-fire dragon's power on a large scale in the arena battle, and then devour his opponent's time for his own use. Previously, because the opponents he faced were not very strong, the time conversion rate for devouring was not very high, so he was unable to effectively use too much time. However, every opponent he was going to face was a level 9 Emperor stage expert. Therefore, if he could devour his opponent's time, he would have a higher time conversion rate. Previously, the conversion rate was 100. Now, if he could achieve a conversion rate of 1,000, then Kong Xinmu could use this time to improve himself. This was a plan, but in order to implement it, there must be a prerequisite. That is, Kong Xinmu must have the ability to defeat or control his opponent. Now, Kong Xinmu only had one ability to control his opponents, and that was the Desolate God demonic weapon from the demon god race, the heaven-imprisoning demonic orb. However, this item could not be used in this arena battle. Hence, for Kong Xinmu, his main goal was to defeat his opponent with all his strength. Then, he could take advantage of his opponent's injuries or immobility to devour his opponent's time. He had to find an opportunity. Otherwise, the heaven-deficient ice and fire powers would be blocked by his opponent, and he would not be able to break through his opponent's defense. First, he had to ensure that his opponent lost the ability to fight back. Under such circumstances, his opponent would most likely admit defeat. However, This was a level 9 Emperor stage battle. How could those who came to fight against Kong Shinmu have the face to admit defeat? It would be best if Kong Shinmu directly blasted them out, or even knocked them unconscious. Of course, Kong Shinmu could not directly enter the arena. He would not give others the opportunity to choose his opponent. Therefore, he would definitely choose a weaker opponent to fight against. Then, he would devour his opponent's time to strengthen himself. He would save all his time to improve himself. If Kong Shinmu devoured half of the time in one incense stick, and the conversion rate could reach 1,000 times, that would be a few days' time. To Kong Shinmu, a few days' time was enough for him to become much stronger. Let's do that. After Kong Shinmu made his plan, he left the arena. Next, the major races rested for a day. The dragon gods were shocked that the genius of the demon god clan, Xueqi, would give up in the battle for the championship against Kong Shinmu. Some people even suspected that there was a special relationship between Kong Shinmu and the demon god clan. After all, Xueqi's reason for giving up the championship was too far-fetched. However, Kong Shinmu did not give any explanation. It would not be good to explain too much at this time. Therefore, the students of Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy felt that Kong Shinmu felt that Xueqi was not easy to deal with. Therefore, at the last moment, he directly left the arena and went to another arena. This was because the opponent in the other arena was easier to deal with. And if he stayed in the original arena to fight against Xueqi, he might not be able to guarantee that he would be able to stand until the end. This was very reasonable, but it was a pity that they had guessed wrongly. Kong Shinmu had thought that Xueqi was Xueqi at first sight. Without a doubt, now that he had figured out the reason, he was still a little conflicted. No matter what, the champion of the arena battle was Kong Shinmu. Next, he only needed to prepare for the arena battle of the 9th level of the Martial Emperor stage. Next, Kong Shinmu left the arena area. Many people were too lazy to leave. They directly waited in the arena area for the 9th level of the Martial Emperor stage to begin one day later. However, Kong Shinmu had other things to do. The most important thing was that he needed to break through the grade of the Divine Dragon's blood essence and break through his cultivation realm. These two aspects were the most important elements for him to become stronger. He could not ignore them, and he absolutely could not allow any accidents to happen. He returned to Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, which was located on the Dragon Martial Continent. For him, going back and forth between the arena and the Dragon Martial Arts Academy was not too troublesome. He directly decided to break through his cultivation realm on the central plaza of Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. The reincarnation beast directly appeared in the sky above Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, bringing with it a patch of terrifying pitch-black clouds. Then, the claws of the reincarnation beast appeared from the dark clouds, and a shocking might descended on the entire Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Breaking through from the 6th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm to the 7th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm was not too rare in Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Often, many students of the Dragon Martial Arts Academy who had stayed for a long time would break through their cultivation realm here. Moreover, breaking through from the 6th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm to the 7th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm was not too difficult. As long as one's battle strength was up to par, there was almost no possibility of failure. Chapter 48-45. Of course, Kong Shinmu didn't care about the students who were attracted by the commotion. He chose to break through at Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy because it was the safest and most convenient place. He couldn't be disturbed by outsiders. After he decided to break through, he transformed into a black dragon and unleashed his aura. The reincarnation beast in the sky also bared its fangs. Unfortunately, Horned Dragon Explosion. Jiang Shenwu casually unleashed the 5th stage Flood Dragon Explosion and smashed the reincarnation behemoth, which had yet to reveal itself, into pieces. After the reincarnation beast was smashed by Hong Cheng, it turned into the purest reincarnation power and integrated into Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. It started to refine his reincarnation power and make it even stronger. Then, a second reincarnation beast appeared in the dark clouds in the sky. The appearance of this reincarnation beast shocked the surrounding students. They didn't expect Kong Shinmu to be so powerful. He killed the first reincarnation beast in an instant. That was too terrifying. Moreover, it seemed like he wanted to challenge the second reincarnation beast. To be honest, Some dragon martial artists didn't have high-quality divine dragon blood essence. It was difficult for them to defeat the first reincarnation beast. For example, some heavenly dragon martial artists inherited the divine dragon blood essence. Compared to the current Jiang Shenwu, their strength was far inferior. It was possible for them to break through to the reincarnation realm. However, it was extremely difficult for them to reach a higher level. They might not even be able to kill the first reincarnation beast. Now, Kong Shinmu crushed the first reincarnation beast and killed it in an instant. He smashed it into pieces. Generally speaking, breaking through from the 6th to the 7th level of the reincarnation realm was no problem for a dragon king. However, there were still some requirements for a holy dragon martial artist. Of course, a heavenly dragon or a true dragon couldn't reach the 6th level of the reincarnation realm. Now, Kong Shinmu smashed the body of a reincarnation beast. It was shocking. He is Kong Shinmu. What? He's that Kong Shinmu? I knew it. Apart from Kong Shinmu, who else could kill the reincarnation behemoth so quickly and challenge a second reincarnation behemoth? Soon, the second reincarnation beast appeared in front of everyone. It was a ferocious, dark beast. Because Kong Shinmu's innate ability was similar to the devouring power of darkness, all the reincarnation beasts that appeared were of the darkness attribute. This was the only way that Kong Shinmu's reincarnation power could be maximized. When this reincarnation beast appeared, Kong Shinmu's entire body stiffened. He realized that the second reincarnation beast from the 6th to the 7th level was much stronger than the previous reincarnation beast. If his battle prowess hadn't been maximized, he might not have been able to kill a reincarnation beast of this level. Fortunately, Kong Shinmu's current battle prowess far exceeded his average battle prowess. Hence, he immediately unleashed the 9th level ultimate Qi Long Burst and unleashed his strongest attack. The 8th level ultimate Qi Long Burst appeared in front of the reincarnation beast and exploded. Waves of terrifying power rippled out and spread to the surroundings. It was extremely shocking. As for Jiang Shenwu, this move wasn't his strongest attack, but it was his strongest attack without using his dragon weapon. He took advantage of the fact that the reincarnation behemoth had yet to come out to directly explode. Then, he used the 8th-stage Flood Dragon explosion to directly shatter the reincarnation behemoth. The second reincarnation beast was also directly smashed by Kong Shinmu. This scene completely shocked the surrounding students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Wasn't Kong Shinmu too ferocious? What a terrifying attack! Ordinary people couldn't imagine how strong Kong Shinmu was. The students in the academy didn't know about the 10 major races arena battle outside the Longwu fortress. He was the strongest among all the 4th-stage martial emperors in the 10 major races. Hence, defeating the second reincarnation beast with one move wasn't something too unbelievable. However, based on the increase in strength of the second reincarnation beast, I might have to use the heaven-level holy spiritual dragon weapon when I break through to the 8th level of the reincarnation realm. I might have to use all my strength to break through to the 9th level of the reincarnation realm. This was too terrifying. The increase in strength of the reincarnation beast didn't happen slowly. Instead, it had increased by a large margin. Based on this situation, Kong Shinmu felt that the possibility of Xiao Bai and the others defeating the second reincarnation beast when they broke through to the next level would be relatively small. It was highly likely that they wouldn't be able to defeat the second reincarnation beast. Unless they temporarily suppressed the increase in the divine dragon blood essence and improved their heaven-level holy spiritual dragon weapon and advanced holy spiritual dragon technique to the highest level that they could master. If they could improve the advanced holy spiritual dragon technique to the ultimate sage realm, then it wouldn't be a problem to kill the second reincarnation beast. Hence, the key was still time. For Xiao Bai and the others, the most important thing wasn't to improve the level of the divine dragon blood essence. Instead, it was to master the heaven-level holy spiritual dragon weapon and cultivate the advanced holy spiritual dragon technique. If they could improve these two aspects, they wouldn't have too big of a problem in the future. There was still a long way to go. As Jiang Shenwu absorbed the endless samsara power, he allowed the samsara power to condense his own inherent power. At the same time, he was thinking about how to help Xiao Bai and the others. In the end, he realized that he really couldn't help Xiao Bai and the others in terms of the dragon martial skill. In this aspect, they had to rely on themselves. Right now, Kong Shinmu could help dragon warriors break through their bottlenecks and improve the level of the divine dragon blood essence. However, they still had to rely on themselves in other aspects. In this way, the gap between Kong Shinmu and them would widen. This was because as long as Kong Shinmu found an opportunity, he would be able to greatly improve his understanding of the dragon technique. For example, with the guidance of Emperor Shi's divine dragon, he had directly broken through 2 levels after devouring the power of the ultimate Sage Realm's 9th stage Hui Dragon Explosion. Now, he could directly use the 8th stage Hui Dragon Explosion. This was Kong Shinmu's strength. However, others didn't have this kind of ability. If they wanted to improve their dragon technique, they could only cultivate step by step. Unless I can create a realm that can change time. But that's easier said than done. I have to find the corpse of another heavenly deficient demonic dragon of fire and ice. Only then will I be able to obtain this ability. Chapter 48-46. Therefore, before he found the skeleton of the other heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's inheritor, Kong Shinmu could only shorten his own cultivation process by devouring the time of others. This ability was already very powerful. Of course, he could only use this ability for himself. He couldn't help others. Xiao Bai, Ran, and the others could only work hard for the time being. Of course, it didn't mean that they could stop working hard when the time came. It was just that Kong Shinmu could help them cultivate faster. They needed the same amount of effort, but relatively speaking, the flow of time in the space they were in would be faster. A year in the outside world might be 10, 20, 30 years for them. Kong Shinmu didn't know what kind of ability he would have then. In short, he could only obtain such an ability if he found the skeleton of the other heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's inheritor. Soon, Kong Shinmu finished condensing the reincarnation power. After condensing the reincarnation power twice, Kong Shinmu's natural talent, the devouring power, had nearly doubled. Now, even if he used the 7-fold Hydra Dragon Explosion, the destructive power was equivalent to the 8-fold Hydra Dragon Explosion. It could be said that his combat strength had directly increased. Next, he planned to break through the grade of the Divine Dragon's Inheritance Blood Essence. Previously, he had devoured almost all the energy in the Dragon Mark, but he had been stuck at a bottleneck. Now that he wanted to break through, he naturally did so. This process seemed natural and not deliberate at all. As long as Kong Shinmu thought about it, the grade of his Divine Dragon's Inheritance Blood Essence would begin to move toward the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. Going from the 4th level to the 5th level was a relatively big change. Otherwise, the Holy Lands of the Dragon Gods wouldn't have regarded the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor as a period of transformation. At this time, Kong Shinmu could clearly feel his Divine Dragon's Inheritance Blood Essence boiling. The power in his body began to surge. While all his power was becoming stronger, it also brought about an overall increase in his explosive power, resistance, and other aspects. It also increased the strength of his devouring power, so that his devouring power could devour his opponent's power faster and faster. The 5th level of Dragon Emperor. After reaching this level, he didn't gain any special abilities. However, he discovered that the strength he gained from this transformation was much greater than before. For example, if the Dragon Emperor's increase in strength from the 3rd level to the 4th level was said to be 1, then the increase in strength from the 4th level to the 5th was about 3. This was a 3-fold increase. This was something Kong Shinmu did not expect. If that's the case, the current me might be able to defeat Master Shangguan Dyer without her dragon weapon. Kong Shinmu estimated his current strength. When he broke through to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, the extent of his increase in strength was beyond his expectations. This made him quite shocked. He didn't expect the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor to have such a huge increase. However, during the Dragon Emperor stage, such a huge increase should only occur during the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. The other stages wouldn't be able to give people such a huge increase. Furthermore, Kong Shinmu now realized that there was a huge problem. Although his strength had increased, he still needed a long time to master and consolidate this power. At this stage, he could only control and use a portion of the power. He could only master half of the power by roughly how much he had increased. This made him feel rather conflicted. However, this is also good. When the time comes, I only need to use the time I devour to consolidate my strength in the arena. This way I can become even stronger. I don't need to break through to the next level. That would be too troublesome and shocking. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. Of course, if he really couldn't do it when the time came, he might really break through to the next level in the arena and defeat the reincarnation behemoth. This wasn't a troublesome matter for him. For Jiang Xinwu, not being able to fully control the increased power was still rather uncomfortable. However, no matter what, an increase in his realm was still an increase. His current combat strength was at least 3 times or even 4 times what it had been before. This was a huge improvement. When he completely consolidated his strength, perhaps his strength would be 5 times what it had been before. However, this wasn't all Kong Xinmu had broken through. He still had one more thing to do. Divine Dragon Marrow. Divine Dragon Marrow was divided into 4 grades: Heaven, Earth, Mysterious, and Yellow. Right now, he had an Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow. Divine Dragon Marrow was an extremely precious cultivation resource in the world. Only the various sacred grounds would produce it. It was said that it was the bone marrow of a real divine dragon. The dragon mark energy contained within it was simply unimaginable. Of course, the energy of the 4 grades of Divine Dragon Marrow were on a completely different level. The Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow in Kong Xinmu's hands was something he had bought from the Precious Treasure Pavilion. It had cost him 120,000 golden dragon coins. This was a huge fortune. One had to know that he only received 1 million gold dragon coins for finding a 9-layered inscribed Heaven and Earth Saint-grade Divine Dragon Marrow. Yet this Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow cost him 120,000 gold dragon coins. That was a terrifying amount. However, its effects were also said to be extremely terrifying. Even a supreme divine dragon powerhouse would have some improvement after absorbing the power within the Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow, let alone Kong Xinmu. According to the shopkeeper of the Precious Treasure Pavilion, if the dragon mark energy within the Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow was completely absorbed by Kong Xinmu, he would probably be able to break through to the 9th stage Emperor tier. However, the prerequisite was that he could withstand the impact of the dragon mark energy within. Ordinary dragon martialists wouldn't dare to casually consume the power of the Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow. However, Kong Xinmu was different. He could completely absorb the power of the Divine Dragon Marrow and store it in his devouring space. If he could absorb all the power within the Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow, he would at least be able to break through to the 9th stage Emperor tier. However, he wouldn't be able to withstand such power in a short period of time. Hence, he decided to take it slow. At least with this Divine Dragon Marrow, he wouldn't need to absorb the dragon mark energy from other places. He wouldn't need to purchase other forms of cultivation resources either. Cultivation resources that contained dragon mark energy were still relatively valuable. One Earth-grade Divine Dragon Marrow from Kong Xinmu could even allow him to break through to the 9th stage Emperor tier. It was obvious how precious it was. Chapter 48-47. It wasn't easy to consolidate one's strength when one had just broken through. It would take a long time to consolidate one's strength. However, if one broke through 2 realms consecutively, it would be twice as difficult to consolidate one's strength from the previous realm. If Kong Xinmu broke through to level 9 Martial Emperor right away, his combat strength wouldn't increase too much. On the other hand, it would be more difficult for him to consolidate his strength in the future. After considering this, Kong Xinmu returned to the Dragon Martial Fortress, the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Then, he started to devour the Earth-level Divine Dragon Marrow. After he devoured the power of the Divine Dragon Marrow and stored it in his devouring space, he started to devour a portion of the Dragon Mark's energy to improve the grade of his inherited Divine Dragon Essence. Although continuous breakthroughs would greatly affect the speed of consolidation, Kong Xinmu had to break through now. Only by improving the grade of his inherited Divine Dragon Essence would he be able to stand firm in the arena battles of level 9 Martial Emperor. He had to at least reach level 6 Martial Emperor. Compared to other level 9 Martial Emperor cultivators, he was a few levels lower in terms of inherited Divine Dragon Essence and a few levels lower in terms of cultivation. Of course, the Samsara power that he had condensed had already surpassed those who had never killed a second Samsara beast. Therefore, overall, his strength wasn't weak. However, the opponents he had to face were the strongest level 9 Martial Emperor genius powerhouses from the 10 major races. Among these genius powerhouses, there would definitely be many who had condensed Samsara power. At least half of them would have defeated a second Samsara beast. Under such circumstances, the advantages that Kong Xinmu had seemed very weak. In order to defeat those top-notch opponents, Kong Xinmu had to improve the grade of his inherited Divine Dragon Essence. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't be able to stand firm in the arena. 1/10 of the Earth-level Divine Dragon Marrow's power was directly devoured by Kong Xinmu. Then, he used this power to stimulate the devouring talent in his body, causing all the inherited divine dragon essence in his body to boil. Breakthrough to level 6 Dragon Emperor. Kong Shinmu's successive breakthroughs didn't increase his strength as much as he had imagined. The main reason was that many of his powers had settled down, and he was temporarily unable to control them. After he broke through to the 6th level of Dragon Emperor, Kong Shinmu made a rough estimate based on the amount of power he could now control in his body. Very quickly, he discovered that if he wanted to consolidate the majority of the increase in power he had gained this time, it would take at least a month or two. Of course, this was not a complete consolidation, but only a large part of it. Consolidating 80% of it would take 1 or 2 months. This was because he had made consecutive breakthroughs, causing the difficulty of consolidating his previous strength to increase. This caused some of his strength to sink deeper, making it very difficult for him to consolidate it. In such a short period of time, he advanced from the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor and the 6th level of the Reincarnation Tribulations realm to the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor and the 7th level of the Reincarnation Tribulations realm. Furthermore, he defeated the 2nd Reincarnation Beast and refined the Reincarnation power. With my current strength, I shouldn't be too far off from an ordinary level 9 Martial Emperor. I just don't know what kind of improvements Xueqi has made. Kong Shinmu was very curious now. He was so curious that he wanted to secretly inquire about it. Unfortunately, he suppressed his desire in the end. No matter what level Xueqi had reached, he would know when the arena battle started. There was no need for him to go out and inquire about it now. This would have a bad influence on him. Kong Shinmu really didn't want others to suspect his relationship with the demon god race. Of course, the demon god race didn't seem to want to announce the relationship between Kong Shinmu and Xueqi. Regarding this, Kong Shinmu didn't know why, but no matter what, it made sense. Kong Shinmu believed that this was definitely something that was beneficial to the demon god race. He wondered how Xueqi was doing now. Kong Shinmu hadn't seen Xueqi for a long time. Unknowingly, he actually missed her a little. After all, Xueqi had some fate with him. This fate had made the two of them worry about each other. I still have to wait until I become stronger and explore the mid-level ruins. Only after I understand the general situation of the Chaos battlefield can I find the people of the demon god race and find Xueqi. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. Now that his strength as a dragon warrior was rapidly increasing, his demon god race inheritance and void inheritance were somewhat unable to keep up with his battle strength. Of course, his cultivation realm was useful in all aspects of inheritance. Now that he had broken through to the 7th level of the rebirth tribulation realm, his demon god race inheritance and void inheritance would both increase correspondingly. However, he had only just reached the emperor level in these two aspects. If he wanted to improve further, he couldn't do it in a short period of time. Kong Shinmu didn't have the ambition to unify the dragon god race and the demon god race. Anyway, there was no hatred between the dragon god race and the demon god race, so he still had to find a way to get a chance to coexist between the dragon god race and the demon god race. As long as I'm strong enough and show enough talent, I'll be more useful to both races. The easiest way is to explore mid-level ruins. If he wanted to explore mid-level ruins, Kong Shinmu's opponents would be at the 9th level of the Emperor level. If he could achieve something in this arena battle, he only needed to be in the top 16. That way, Kong Shinmu would be qualified to explore mid-level ruins and gain some benefits. Of course, with such strength, he wouldn't be able to dominate everything in the mid-level ruins. If he went with Gu Xinyue, he might have to ride on her coattails. Kong Shinmu shook his head. He still had to improve himself as soon as possible. In this arena battle, there would be enough opponents. Devouring their time energy would help him consolidate his strength faster. Kong Shinmu thought to himself. Finally, when the 9th level of the Emperor level arena battle began, he reappeared in the spectator stands around the 16 arenas. Jiang Shenwu, who had reappeared, had a much stronger aura than before. Many unparalleled experts, as well as many existences of the super mystical dragon level, could tell at a glance that the current Jiang Shenwu was several times stronger than a day ago. His cultivation realm had broken through by 1 level. It seemed that he had defeated 2 reincarnation behemoths. Chapter 48-52. Kong Shinmu's transformation shocked many people. The cultivators from the other clans had never thought that Kong Shinmu could break through so quickly. However, Many 9th-level Emperor stage cultivators still didn't think much of Kong Shin-mu. For example, on the side of the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan, there was a thin young man that possessed the inheritance of the Black Serpent, and the corners of his mouth instantly curled up when he sensed Jiang Shenwu's appearance from afar. Jiang Shenwu's improvement is really swift. Unfortunately, there's still a difference of 3 levels of inheritance between us. Moreover, Kong Shinmu's improvement is so fast. It'll take him some time to consolidate his strength. Therefore, his current strength is nothing compared to ours. If this brat really wants to participate in our 9th-level Emperor stage battles, he'll probably be defeated the moment he enters the arena. Hehehe. The skinny young man from the Black Serpent inheritance was called Hei Sauron. The different imperial clans of the Thousand-Winged Snake clan had similar names. For example, Princess Azure Lotus of the Jade Serpent clan was the same. Hei Sauron's strength was not ranked among the 9th-level Emperor stage experts of the Thousand-Winged Snake clan. However, his 9th-level Emperor stage inheritance gave him a natural sense of arrogance. He didn't dare to speak so much in front of other 9th-level Emperor stage cultivators. However, he looked down on Kong Shin-mu, who was only a 4th-level Emperor stage dragon martial artist not long ago. Perhaps Kong Shin-mu would rise up in the future and become an expert that he could only look up to. However, that wasn't now. Hei Sauron felt that the future could wait. If Kong Shin-mu dared to enter the arena now, he would definitely let Kong Shin-mu know what it meant to be a 9th-level Emperor stage expert. How could a fellow who had just broken through to the 6th-level Emperor stage be able to fight against an expert of this level? Don't be careless. Behind Hei Sauron, a green-robed thousand-winged serpent lady said indifferently. Princess Azure Lotus said that this person has some strange techniques, so we must not underestimate him. Even if he has just broken through to the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor, he cannot be underestimated. After all, it is easiest to consolidate one's strength in battle. Perhaps this person wants to use battle to consolidate his strength faster? This green-robed woman from the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan was called Qing Qiu, and she was one of the top experts amongst the 9th-level Emperor rank experts of the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan. Qing Qiu's age could not be determined, but she was definitely not young. She still looked as delicate and alluring as a young girl, and her entire body emanated an indescribable charm. In reality, for an Emperor-level cultivator, a mere few decades of time didn't need to be counted into their age. Especially those with extraordinary talents who had reached the 5th level of the Emperor level a long time ago, their appearance would become permanent at this time. The reason why the 5th layer of the Emperor realm was so important was because the 5th layer of the Emperor realm would greatly increase the lifespan of the cultivator. This increase would allow the cultivator's body to not age for a long time. In other words, it would have the effect of immortality. Of course, this was just a saying. In reality, the 5th level of the Emperor level was far from reaching the level of immortality. However, because their lifespan had increased, it was very difficult to tell their age from the surface. Qing Qiu was wearing a black robe. Her beautiful snake-like eyes reflected Kong Shin-mu, who was separated by space. Kong Shin-mu's black-robed figure appeared before her eyes. In the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan, the Green Serpent clan and the Jade Serpent clan were the 2 great clans that had a good relationship with each other. They were both independent of each other, but there were times when they cooperated more. This Qing Qiu just happened to be Princess Azure Lotus' tutor in the academy. In the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan, there were also a few public academies that were built for talented juniors to join. They would receive the teachings of their seniors and become stronger at a faster rate, improving themselves in a more stable manner. Princess Azure Lotus' tutor was Qing Qiu. Princess Azure Lotus had a very high evaluation of Kong Shin-mu after they came out from the elementary ruins. After that, Princess Azure Lotus broke through to the 5th level of the Emperor level. Therefore, Princess Azure Lotus did not participate in the arena battles this time. However, it seemed that Qing Qiu did not expect that she would actually encounter the opponent of her former disciple, Princess Azure Lotus, in the arena battles this time, Kong Shin-mu. It should be known that less than half a year ago, this Kong Shin-mu was still competing with Princess Azure Lotus in the elementary ruins. But now, he had actually grown to such a level in such a short time and wanted to participate in the arena battles of the 9th level of the Imperial Family level. Although Qing Qiu felt that Kong Shin-mu was a little presumptuous, she did not dare to underestimate Kong Shin-mu. After all, Qing Qiu believed that before Kong Shin-mu entered the arena, he would definitely fight with some of the 9th level of the Dragon God's Imperial Family level to determine the level of his own strength. Since he really dared to fight, It meant that this fellow indeed had the strength to fight a 9th-level Emperor-level expert. Even if he was not a top 9th-level Emperor-level expert, it was still quite impressive. After all, this Kong Shinmu had only reached the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor level. Qing Qiuyu reminded He Zoulan to not be careless. He Zoulan also respected Qing Qiuyu very much. He nodded and said, "Don't worry. Although I, He Zoulan, have lost many times to the instructors in the academy, I have never lost to a junior. If I lose to this Kong Shinmu, I will not have the face to continue being an instructor in our academy." He Zoulan was still very assured, but Qing Qiuyu's words still made him a little wary of Kong Shinmu. Now, in the spectator seats of the other races, the 9th-level experts of the Imperial family level basically all had the same attitude. They still looked down on Kong Shinmu, but if they really faced Kong Shinmu, they would not hold back at all. At the same time, on the side of the demon god race, Xueqi also appeared. When Xueqi appeared, everyone was even more shocked. They discovered that Xueqi had actually improved in such a short period of time, and he was even stronger than Kong Shinmu. He was actually already at the 7th level of the demon god race's inheritance blood essence. This was so terrifying that even Kong Shinmu was a little shocked after sensing it. This Xueqi, was he really such a genius? Could he consolidate his strength so quickly? Or was this fellow purely planning to consolidate his strength in battle, so he broke through 3 levels of inheritance blood essence in succession? He was a little too confident. It had to be said that Kong Shinmu felt that he was already very bold, but he did not expect Xueqi to be even bolder than him. From the looks of it, there would be a good show to watch in this arena battle. Xueqi, I wonder what your goal is? Could it be that you are the champion of this arena battle? Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. Chapter 48-54. To be honest, Kong Shinmu didn't know much about Xueqi, but he had a rough idea of her personality. Based on Xueqi's personality, her goal in this arena battle might really be to become the champion. This was the attitude of a true god's favored one. Who knows, she might really become the champion. Kong Shinmu thought it was funny. If Xueqi really wanted to challenge the champion of the 9th level of the Martial Emperor stage, it wouldn't be right for Kong Shinmu not to challenge her. Although Xueqi had broken through to the 7th level of the Martial Emperor stage in one go, to Kong Shinmu, it wasn't much different. This was because Xueqi's strength hadn't been consolidated after her breakthrough. Compared to Kong Shinmu, her strength was not much different. Xueqi's strength was at most 10 to 20% higher than Kong Shinmu's, so it didn't matter much. Of course, in the arena battle, she would consolidate her strength 3 times, so her speed would be faster than Kong Shinmu's. However, Kong Shinmu had the heaven-deficient ice and fire demonic dragon's ability to devour time. In this case, Xueqi wouldn't be able to consolidate her strength as fast as Kong Shinmu, right? In any case, the arena battle was about to begin. Kong Shinmu wasn't particularly excited about the start of the arena battle. After all, he couldn't go into the arena right away. However, the people around him were very excited. Little White, Ran Ran, Xiao Yuhua, and Liang Xiao were currently in a rather agitated mood. At the same time, they were also a little dispirited and dejected. After all, they were originally on the same level as Jiang Shenwu, but from the looks of it, Jiang Shenwu was already far ahead of them. Level 9 Martial Emperor Stage. This was the peak of the Dragon Emperor stage. It was equivalent to the strongest Dragon Emperor instructor. If he was stronger than this, he would have reached the level of a super divine dragon. He might even have the strength to become the dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Therefore, for Kong Shinmu to participate in such an arena battle, his level was definitely not something that ordinary people could imagine. Even though Xiao Bai and Ran Ran had always known how powerful Kong Shinmu was, they didn't expect that Kong Shinmu would improve so fast. With such a terrifying speed, he had completely surpassed them. Of course, it still depended on Kong Shinmu's performance in this arena battle. If his performance was good, then it would be amazing. If he didn't perform well, to be honest, even if he didn't perform well, it would be excusable. But for others, it would undoubtedly be seen as Kong Shinmu overestimating himself. In particular, the Demon God clan had a royal demonic cultivator called Xueqi. If the two sides were compared, if Kong Shinmu's performance was not as good as Xueqi's, it would be a slap in the face to the Dragon God clan. This Xueqi is from the royal family of the Demon God clan. The Demon God clan only has one royal family, and that is the Su clan. That's right. Xueqi has the support of the entire Demon God clan. The cultivation resources she has are not something that Kong Shinmu can compare with. However, after Kong Shinmu received the 9 layers engraved Heaven and Earth Sacred Grade reward, he also has a lot of cultivation resources. The key is that he still lacks some accumulation. In terms of cultivation time, Kong Shinmu's cultivation time is not even half of Su Ye's. No, it's not even a third. Emperor Shi's mystical dragon and Qing Tian's calamity dragon were laughing and discussing secretly. However, they were in a relaxed mood. No matter how Kong Shinmu performed, the Dragon God clan had already gained a lot this time. After all, in the last round of the arena battles, Kong Shinmu's performance was too good, and the other students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy also performed very well. No matter what, even if the dragon martial artists who performed well had nothing to do with Donghuang Yonggu College, Qing Tian's Calamity Dragon was still very happy. After all, in the eyes of the top 10 clans, the Dragon God clan was the Dragon God clan, and it had nothing to do with the students. For the Dragon God clan, they could all obtain more cultivation resources, especially since Kong Shinmu had occupied the arena for almost 3 days. This was the record for the longest period of time. For the Dragon God clan, this was a lot of resources, and the value of this was immeasurable. Next, it was time to see the arena battles of the 9th layer of the Imperial stage. In this arena battle, the Dragon God clan also sent out many strong cultivators. For example, the chief instructor of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, Shangguan Dai and Shangguan Dai was not the only one. There were a total of 7 to 8 9th layer Imperial stage instructors in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, and Shangguan Dai was the one who was the most favored. In addition to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, the other 3 academies also sent several 9th layer Imperial stage experts to participate in the battle. In Donghuang Yonggu College, there were 2 talented Dragon Emperor instructors, Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua. Originally, Qing Tian's Calamity Dragon was very optimistic about the 2 of them, and because of this, when Zhou Xiaofeng was in the position, he did not dare to do anything to the 2 of them, and they completely dared to disobey some of Zhou Xiaofeng's orders. Including the 2 disciples of Dragon Emperor instructors, they also dared to disobey Zhou Xiaofeng's orders and directly befriend Kong Shinmu, such as Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, and so on. All this was because Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua's combat strength was extremely strong, and they were extremely talented. The 2 Dragon Emperor instructors were at the peak of the 9th layer of the Imperial stage. There was even a period of time when they participated in the exploration of middle-level relics, and they even had above middle-level gains. At that time, they did not have such peak combat strength as they did now. One could imagine that Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua were the trump cards sent by Donghuang Yonggu College. It was not clear who was stronger between the 2 of them and Shangguan Dai, but at least they were at the same level. In addition, the Northern Desolate Dragon Martial Academy and the Southern Emperor Dragon Martial Academy also had 1 or 2 powerful Dragon Emperor instructors. In terms of this level, the Dragon Emperor Kingdom's Dragon Emperor Kingdom in the Dragon Martial Continent had not reached this level. Even Great Liang's Dragon Emperor, who was considered one of the strongest Dragon Emperor Kingdom's Dragon Emperor Kingdom, was still ranked outside the 200th on the Dragon Emperor list of the Dragon Martial Fortress. Now that everyone had become stronger, it was mainly because there were many old fellows in the hidden Dragon Martial clan. These old fellows might not be very talented, but their cultivation realm was at the 9th layer of the Imperial stage, and they had been at this level for a long time. The Dragon Martial techniques they cultivated had reached at least the Saint stage. After all, it depended on one's comprehension ability and power of comprehension. It couldn't be achieved by relying on time. However, if a Martial Saint-level Dragon Martial skill were to burst out, it wouldn't be something that most of the younger generation could resist. The old fellows of the hidden Dragon Martial clan could be considered a major combat strength of the Dragon God clan, and they could not be underestimated. Chapter 48-55. The Martial Dragon Continent's Small World, where the top 10 clans held the Martial Dragon Continent's 9th layer arena battle, had finally begun. Following the Supreme Expert's order, many 9th-level Martial Emperor experts immediately flew up from the 16 arenas in the center. The 9th-level Martial Emperor experts from the various clans all entered the arena excitedly. After all, it was relatively rare to see a joint event like this arena battle. Although it was held in the Martial Dragon Continent's Small World, it still attracted many experts from the various clans. After all, there weren't many such events, and the most important thing was that there were many rewards for this event. As long as a 9th layer martial emperor expert had some ability, they would want to try their luck. Of course, there were also some top experts who planned to fight for a higher ranking in the arena battle and obtain a more satisfactory reward. Once they obtained first place in this arena battle, they would be able to obtain cultivation resources equivalent to 100,000 gold dragon coins as a reward. It would be difficult to obtain such a generous reward even if they were to explore a mid-level relic. For example, when Kong Shin-mu explored a low-level relic, most of the ordinary dragon martial artists only obtained a few ice or fire hexagonal crystals. If these crystals were converted into gold dragon coins, they would only be worth about 5,000 gold dragon coins. Moreover, it was already good enough for them to obtain 1 or 2 hexagonal crystals. If they wanted to obtain more, they would need to be stronger and have better luck. Therefore, cultivation resources worth 100,000 gold dragon coins was definitely an extremely tempting amount of wealth. That was why it attracted experts from the various clans. In fact, it wasn't that these experts wanted to come, it was that they couldn't resist the temptation. The various clans had spread the news of this arena battle. Therefore, almost all the 9th layer martial emperor experts from the various clans who were free and nearby would rush over. Therefore, the experts from the various clans who had gathered here now accounted for at least 1/3 of the 9th layer martial emperor experts from the various clans. Naturally, there were many terrifying existences among them. Kong Shin-mu didn't go up the arena immediately. Similarly, Xueqi from the Demon God clan didn't go up immediately. After all, they were now the target of public criticism. Once they went up, they would definitely be attacked by the experts. Therefore, they only had 3 chances. They challenged those in the ring who looked weaker or felt that they were on par with them. This way, they could constantly improve themselves in battle and constantly consolidate the power they had just obtained after breaking through. This kind of improvement was very fast. In fact, if they encountered a life or death crisis, their hidden power that had not been consolidated would be stimulated at the fastest speed, and it would be equivalent to being under their own control. Therefore, they only had 3 chances. Everyone had 3 chances to challenge the arena. After 3 chances were used up, they would no longer be qualified to challenge the arena. Therefore, they had to grow to a level where they could contend against other 9th layer Emperor Realm cultivators before the 3rd challenge. This goal could be said to be extremely difficult. At the very least, it wasn't easy for Kong Shin-mu to achieve this. It wasn't easy for Xueqi either. This was because as long as they succeeded in the first challenge, it was very likely that an expert would come to deal with them in the next round, not giving them a chance to grow. Therefore, after they succeeded in the first challenge, they would most likely fail the next time they were challenged. After they succeeded in the second challenge, it might not be so certain. However, they would still fail in the end because their battle strength would definitely not reach the peak of 9th layer Emperor Realm. There would definitely be powerful existences from other clans who would come to snipe them. However, after the 3rd challenge, they would only choose opponents that they could defeat. This way, they would have 3 chances to improve themselves. After the 3rd breakthrough, they would face the most serious challenge. It was very likely that they would be attacked by people who would take turns to wear them down, but it was also possible that the strongest 9th layer Emperor Realm expert would directly attack and defeat them. No matter what, they absolutely could not let the 2 of them become the champion of this arena battle. They could not even let them get a ranking. This was the arena battle of 9th layer Emperor Realm experts. If they let 2 6th layer and 7th layer Emperor Realm experts get a ranking, wouldn't the other clans, except for the Dragon Gods and the Demon Gods, lose face? In any case, no matter what, the other clans would definitely not let Kong Shin-mu and Xueqi go to the end as they wished. During this period of time, there would be many difficulties. They had to use their true strength to achieve results. Kong Shin-mu began to observe carefully. On the other side, Xueqi was also observing carefully. As for Emperor Shi's mystical dragon, he narrowed his eyes and inadvertently glanced at the demon god spectator stands. It seemed that at this moment, he had some kind of communication with the demon gods. As for what kind of communication it was, Kong Shin-mu naturally did not know. In fact, he did not even notice it. He only knew that he would soon decide to go on the stage. In the 9th layer Emperor Realm arena battle, the various clans cultivators who appeared were clearly much stronger than the 4th layer Emperor Realm arena battle cultivators from before. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they were 10 times stronger. Even if it was Jiang Xinwu and Xueqi at that time, these two champions of the 4th layer Emperor level arena battles, they still weren't a match for these 9th layer Emperor level practitioners. Of course, both Kang Xinmu and Xueqi had already cultivated and improved their strength. So, if they were to fight in the 4th layer Emperor realm arena battle, they would still be able to crush their opponents. They would not even need to use their full strength. However, with their current enhanced combat strength, they might not be able to withstand the 9th level of the Emperor Grade arena battle. Finally, Kang Xinmu found an arena. On this arena, there was a strong fighter from the Ancient Phoenix clan and a strong fighter from the Void Human clan. Both sides were fighting fiercely. It was obvious that both sides were evenly matched. However, to Kang Xinmu, neither side was particularly strong. This was their chance. They just had to wait for one of them to be defeated and thrown out of the arena. Then, Kang Xinmu planned to directly rush into the arena and challenge the one who won. This made Kang Xinmu immediately prepare to set off. Of course, from the outside, he only looked like he had transformed into a pitch-black mystical dragon and was leisurely flying in the direction of the arena. Moreover, he was not heading in the direction of the Ancient Phoenix clan and the Void Human clan's arena battle. It looked as if he was aimlessly flying. At the same time, the talented girl from the Demon God clan, Xueqi, also transformed into a pitch-black 16-winged heavenly demon. She set off from the spectator stands and slowly flew towards the 16 arenas. Chapter 48-58. Kang Xinmu didn't try to guess which arena Xueqi had set her eyes on. No matter what, since he had set his eyes on that arena, he had to win it. This was his first opportunity to improve. Therefore, in order to prevent Xueqi from setting her eyes on the same arena as him, he recalled the time when Xueqi had barged into his arena. At that time, Kang Xinmu didn't notice anyone approaching his arena at all. By the time he reacted, Xueqi was already in his arena. It was obvious that Xueqi either had some kind of concealment technique or possessed an extremely terrifying speed that was not inferior to his void travel. This was because Kang Xinmu didn't notice her approaching at all. Therefore, her speed was absolutely terrifying. Therefore, Kang Xinmu had to be on guard against this move. He glanced at the 16-winged heavenly demon god's body that was approaching the 16 arenas in the distance. Then the corners of his lips curled up. He suddenly void traveled and appeared in front of the 16-winged heavenly demon god's body. Xueqi, which arena have you set your eyes on? Kang Xinmu pretended to ask casually. Xueqi didn't expect Kang Xinmu to directly run in front of her and ask her directly. Wasn't this too rude? However, Xueqi pursed her lips and smiled. What about you? Which arena have you set your eyes on? Don't tell me we've set our eyes on the same arena? As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them moved almost at the same time. This was because at that moment, the Void Human Tribe powerhouse summoned the Void God Totem on the arena that Kang Xinmu had set his eyes on. It directly trapped the Ancient Phoenix Tribe powerhouse in the void and blasted him out of the arena through the void. The Void Human Tribe powerhouse consumed a lot of energy because of this. However, this also meant that the Ancient Phoenix Tribe powerhouse had been defeated. This Void Human Tribe powerhouse temporarily became the champion of this arena. Next, the surrounding cultivators could enter the arena and challenge this Void Human Tribe powerhouse. Obviously, Kang Xinmu and Xueqi had set their eyes on this arena. It was the same arena. After all, among the 16 arenas, only this arena would be the one where both sides were evenly matched. Moreover, this was the only arena that was about to end. Since both parties set off at the same time, there was a high chance that they were eyeing the same arena. Both sides moved at almost the same time. Kang Xinmu moved with the power of space. At the same time, he sensed that the 16-winged sky demon god was also shuttling through space in an attempt to appear on the stage. As expected, he also has a strong understanding of the void energy. Kang Xinmu finally understood Xueqi a little better. But this time, he was definitely a cut above the rest. Because, when he traveled through the void and appeared in front of Xueqi in a flash, he didn't actually appear directly. Instead, he appeared once at the edge of the arena. He traveled through the void twice. However, there was almost no gap between the two trips, so Xueqi didn't notice it. Because of this, Kang Xinmu had already left a spot at the edge of the arena. When he traveled through the void again to that spot, his speed would definitely be many times faster than before. Therefore, when Su Ye's 16-winged sky demon god traveled through space and appeared next to the arena almost instantly, Kong Shinmu had already stepped onto the arena and became the next opponent to challenge this void human tribe powerhouse. What? You? Su Yi was shocked. She didn't expect that she would lose to Kong Shinmu. She knew that Kong Shinmu's understanding of the void energy was quite high, but she didn't expect it to be this high. Of course, she now understood what Kong Shinmu had just done. He pretended to travel through the void to greet her, but in reality, he had left a mark at the edge of the arena. Wasn't this too scheming? You're too shameless. Su Yi couldn't believe it. This Kong Shinmu looked like a hot-blooded and honest person, but he actually thought of such a cunning way to snatch the arena. This was simply. Su Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Humph. Isn't it just an arena? I'll let you have it first. Even if you let this guy practice, you won't be able to surpass me. Su Yi snorted softly, but she didn't dwell on it too much. She directly floated outside the arena and began to observe the battle on the arena. In reality, Kong Shinmu had already stopped paying attention to Su Yi the moment he arrived on the arena. This was because his arrival on the arena meant that his battle had already begun. There was no need for the Supreme Powerhouse to give the order. He was likely to face the opponent's attack. However, the Void Human Tribe Powerhouse had just thrown his opponent, the Ancient Phoenix Tribe, out of the arena. Now, he was on the verge of losing his strength, so this guy was still resting. When his opponent appeared, the Void Human Tribe Powerhouse's expression changed. However, when he discovered that his opponent was Kong Shinmu, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was a level 9 Emperor Stage powerhouse. What was there to be afraid of when he encountered this level 6 Emperor Stage Kong Shinmu? He glanced outside the arena from the corner of his eyes. Su Yi, who had almost entered the arena, felt that he was quite lucky. In his eyes, Su Yi was a much greater threat to him than Kong Shinmu. After all, he was a level 7 Demon Emperor, while the other was a level 6 Dragon Emperor. There was a difference in the quality of the inherited blood essence by 1 level, so there would definitely be a huge difference in combat strength. Dealing with Kong Shinmu would definitely be much easier than dealing with Su Yi, right? Of course, even if Su Yi entered the arena, he would still be more relaxed. After all, Su Yi was only a level 7 Demon Emperor, 2 levels away from the level 9. This gap of 2 levels was huge. Most importantly, the two sides were different in age. This virtual human tribe powerhouse looked like a middle-aged man. There was a black mole below his nose, and he looked quite honest. Based on the aura he emitted, this middle-aged man was probably close to 100 years old. At such a young age, his understanding of various combat weapons and martial techniques was definitely far superior to the cultivators of the younger generation. So what if he was a genius? Therefore, this virtual human tribe powerhouse stroked his beard and smiled at Kong Shinmu. Little brother Kong Shinmu from the Dragon God's tribe, you chose me as your opponent. Does that mean that you think I'm not as good as you? Or do you think I'm easy to bully? No, it's just that you just fought with a senior from the Ancient Phoenix tribe. It seems like you've consumed a lot of energy, so I chose you. Kong Shinmu was more polite as he said this with a smile. At this moment, there was an empty god totem covering the body of the middle-aged virtual human tribe. This empty god totem was translucent and covered his blue-robed figure. This empty god totem was thousands of feet tall, and there were many light blue void tentacles swaying in the surrounding void. This was the appearance of an ordinary empty god totem. Chapter 4859. After all, the grade of Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon Inheritance blood essence was 3 levels lower than his opponent's. The middle-aged man stroked his beard and smiled as he asked Kong Shinmu, Kong Shinmu, your comprehension of virtual power is pretty good. Even I feel a little inferior to you. Just now, you recorded the marks at the edge of the arena, right? This kind of method really makes people gasp in amazement. You flatter me, you flatter me. Kong Shinmu smiled. Suddenly, he changed the topic and asked, however, senior, you've told me so much. How are you recovering? If you're almost recovered, I'll make the first move. The middle-aged man was puzzled when he heard this. Kong Shinmu, just let me rest a little longer. How about that? Anyway, you're no match for me. Even if you fight me while I'm exhausted, you still won't be a match for me. As compensation, if I can obtain a ranking, I'll give you 1/10 of the cultivation resources as a reward. How about that? Senior, you're still trying to buy time. In that case, I won't stand on ceremony. Kong Xinmu smiled. He completely ignored the other party's suggestion of 1/10 of the cultivation resources as compensation. This was simply a waste of time. Firstly, this middle-aged man from the virtual human tribe was really not strong enough to obtain a ranking in this arena battle. Otherwise, why would Kong Xinmu look for him first? Secondly, even if this fellow really obtained a ranking, why would he really give Kong Xinmu 1/10 of the cultivation resources as a reward? Kong Xinmu did not even know his name. Moreover, this was a deal between the two tribes. If he said it so openly, it would not be credible. He was just buying time. Moreover, why would Kong Xinmu be interested in 1/10 of the cultivation resources? He did not lack cultivation resources at all. He wanted to train and nurture himself in this arena battle between the top 10 tribes. He wanted to consolidate his strength that had just broken through to a certain extent. It would be best if all of them were consolidated. Therefore, Kong Xinmu wouldn't let go of any opportunity. All the opponents on the 9th floor of the Emperor-class arena were extremely strong. Therefore, Kong Xinmu wouldn't go easy on them. When he first entered the arena, he did not attack immediately. Instead, he chatted with the middle-aged man from the Void Human tribe for a while because he was preparing something. This wasn't his first time fighting against a powerful being from the Void Human tribe, nor was it his first time fighting an opponent at the 9th level of the Martial Monarch realm. First of all, he was certain that this middle-aged Void Human tribe powerful being's comprehension of the power of Void was not inferior to his own. He might even be stronger than Shangguan Dyer, because Shangguan Dyer was only a member of the Dragon God race. She had cultivated some Void movement technique dragon-like martial techniques such as the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash. However, the Void Human tribe cultivators cultivated the power of Void, which was their source of power. In fact, their inheritance contained a profound understanding of Void power, which allowed them to use Void power far better than cultivators of other races. Therefore, Kong Xinmu didn't intend to waste any more time talking to his opponent. He merely secretly sensed the situation in the void around him. Sure enough, he discovered that there were signs of power condensing in the 3 voids around him. This middle-aged man said that he wanted to recover more power, but in reality, he was already preparing to attack. Just as Kong Xinmu said, "I'm not going to stand on ceremony," the power in the 3 voids around him suddenly exploded. This was the explosive power of a 9th-level martial monarch. It was the strongest vibration of the power of Void. This was a terrifying attack that belonged to a peak martial monarch. Therefore, even though Kong Xinmu was prepared for this attack, he didn't intend to underestimate it. When the power in the 3 voids exploded and formed 3 void storms that enveloped Kong Xinmu's black dragon body, his devouring power swept out from all over his body. He wouldn't have been able to do this in a hurry. However, he was prepared now. Therefore, he had already condensed the devouring power in the 3 voids, condensed it into a pitch-black beam of light, and blasted it directly into the 3 void storms. Because Kong Xinmu had been prepared, the other party's void storms had just erupted when the devouring power had condensed and erupted. They were far from reaching their maximum power. Therefore, even though Kong Xinmu's devouring power beam didn't use any dragon techniques to condense and strengthen it, it still blasted open the eye of the 3 void storms. Then, the devouring power continued to devour the power of the void storms that had been blasted open. Kong Xinmu's devouring power was his strongest power. However, he had used it right from the start because he needed to devour the power of space to strengthen his defense. The Void Human tribe powerhouse in front of him relied on the power of Void to attack and defend. Therefore, once Kong Xinmu's resistance to the power of Void reached a certain level, he could completely suppress the other party. Now, although Kong Xinmu's Divine Dragon Tyrant body technique hadn't reached the Supreme Sage stage, it was already around the Sage stage. When he switched to his defensive stance, his defense had reached an extremely terrifying level. Now, even if he was attacked by Shangguan Dyer's Flaming Dragon martial technique without using her dragon weapon, he could directly resist it. Therefore, as long as Kong Xinmu devoured some of his opponent's power of Void and strengthened his own resistance to it, he would be completely invincible in this arena battle. And this was probably something that not many people present knew. During the arena battle on the 4th floor of the Emperor stage, Kong Xinmu didn't need to display this ability at all to crush all his opponents. Fortunately, Xueqi didn't really fight with him. Otherwise, Kong Shinmu might have revealed this ability. But now, he might be able to finish this match without anyone noticing this characteristic of his. After all, this ability of his was too hidden. Even supreme powerhouses couldn't discover it. After he devoured the power of void, all the changes in the black dragon body within his body happened within his body. His resistance to the power of void was also a complete internal change. There was no difference on the surface. Therefore, Kong Shinmu directly used this ability. The power of the three void storms was directly shattered by Kong Shinmu's devouring power. Then, the power was directly devoured by Kong Shinmu. The middle-aged void human tribeman didn't expect his method to be seen through by Kong Shinmu in advance. Kong Shinmu, it seems that your perception of the power of void is very strong. It seems that sneak attacks won't be able to defeat you. In that case, I can only attack forcefully. Chapter 4860. The middle-aged man from the void human tribe unleashed his power. Boundless void power gathered around his void god totem. He was using some kind of high-level void god skill. Moreover, Jiang Shenwu could feel that the level of his opponent's nihility god martial technique was extremely high. It was likely that he had already cultivated it to the level of a saint. It actually caused the surrounding void to distort, condensing into a distorted void river. If this distorted void river were to sweep over, Jiang Shenwu would definitely not be able to withstand it. In fact, the appearance of this distorted void river had even emitted a terrifying aura, directly sealing off the entire space above the arena. This was an absolute seal. Kong Shinmu's understanding of void power could not compare to this fellow. Therefore, Kong Shinmu could not break through the sealed void and use void travel to avoid his opponent's attack. The wind shadow flowing flash was completely ineffective against his opponent's void seal. However, Kong Shinmu could keenly sense that this fellow did not use his void power weapon. Perhaps it was because he was arrogant? However, it could also be because of his pride. As a powerful peak emperor-level existence, his pride made him want to defeat Kong Shinmu without using his void power weapon. Otherwise, if he had to use all his power to defeat Kong Shinmu, wouldn't he be laughed at by others? That would be too embarrassing. One had to know that Kong Shinmu was only at level 6 emperor level. This level of inherited blood essence was something that a peak emperor-level existence like him had to use his void power weapon to deal with. This was too weak. Therefore, this fellow did not use his void power weapon. This was Kong Shinmu's chance. Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique. Guardian Stance. Kong Shinmu knew that this was the time for him to use all his power. Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal. Activate. A golden Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal, a heaven-level divine dragon weapon, finally appeared around Jiang Shenwu's pitch-black divine dragon body. Furthermore, it emitted an incomparably tyrannical golden light, which fused into the black innate defensive power around him. The Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique's defensive stance. The 1,200 defensive runes of the Great Sorrow Heavenly Dragon Seal were completely activated. The explosive defensive ability, coupled with Kong Shinmu's devouring power, could completely block the opponent's attack. Sure enough, the void river swept over, distorting the space in its path. But when it hit the black dragon body that Kong Shinmu was in, the black devouring defensive power around him actually resisted the blue void river. With a loud bang, there was a loud explosion. The black dragon that Kong Shinmu was in unleashed a wave of void tremors, which spread out into the surroundings. The entire space above the arena began to tremble. Spatial ripples continued to explode in all directions, but Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was completely unscathed by this attack. It didn't even budge. What a terrifying defensive ability. This scene shocked everyone in the surroundings. How powerful. The first 3 void storms might have just been a probing attack from the void human tribe powerhouse. However, to the void human tribe powerhouse, if the first attack failed, there was no way he would let Kong Shinmu withstand a second attack. Therefore, apart from not using the void weapon, he had basically used all his strength in his second attack. However, such an attack was actually blocked by Kong Shinmu head-on. That heaven-grade divine dragon weapon seems to have been illuminated. That's right, and it was illuminated by the most powerful heaven-shocking gem. The 800 defensive runes on it directly unleashed the effect of 1,200 defensive runes. Even if this kid has just obtained this divine dragon weapon, it's equivalent to increasing his defense by 6 times. This is too terrifying. No, this kid's compatibility with the divine dragon weapon is not bad. He can unleash 70% of its effect, which is more than 8 times his defense. Such a scene caused the expressions of the surrounding experts who were paying attention to the battle in the arena to change drastically. The defensive ability of Kong Shinmu's Great Compassion Sky Dragon Mark, this heaven-grade divine dragon weapon, was simply too strong. Of course, this Great Compassion Sky Dragon Mark was purely a defensive weapon. Kong Shinmu had never used it before, so no one knew that he actually possessed such a strong defensive ability. Of course, just relying on such a strong defensive ability was not enough. A heaven-grade divine dragon weapon could not directly allow a level 6 martial emperor to directly block the attack of a peak martial emperor from the void human tribe. Most importantly, Kong Shinmu's own defensive ability was too strong. This Great Compassion Sky Dragon Mark only amplified Kong Shinmu's own defensive ability. If Kong Shinmu's own defense wasn't strong, the effect of this Great Compassion Sky Dragon Mark would not have been so impressive. Most importantly, Kong Shinmu's own defensive ability was too strong. The various body-tempering dragon-type martial techniques, coupled with the defensive stance of the Divine Dragon Tyrant body technique, made Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon body the strongest among all the cultivators at this stage. Even the Demon God tribe bloodline powerhouses who focused on improving their physical bodies might not be as strong as Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon body. This was the strength of the Divine Dragon Tyrant body technique. The body-tempering dragon-type martial technique that Kong Shinmu cultivated finally shone in the arena battle of the 10 major tribes. However, he did not relax because of this. Currently, Kong Shinmu was floating above the arena, still enduring the attack of his opponent's distorted Void River. However, the devouring power had already enveloped the Void River and started to devour its power. His opponent was probably going to use the Void Energy weapon next, right? Kong Shinmu thought to himself. However, this was all according to his plan. If his opponent used the Void Energy weapon and launched another attack like this, the destructive power would probably be several times stronger. However, Kong Shinmu still had a way to resist his opponent's attack head-on. That was because, after Kong Shinmu devoured the opponent's distorted Void River attack, his Black Dragon body's resistance against the Void attribute power had become even stronger. However, the devouring speed had to be fast. As expected, the middle-aged man from the Void human tribe did not hesitate for too long when he saw that Kong Shinmu had withstood this attack. The middle-aged man stroked his beard, and the translucent virtual god totem on his body shone with blue light again. At the same time, a blue gemstone containing boundless power of nothingness silently appeared in front of the virtual god totem. Chapter 4861. Activate the Phantom Weapon. The most powerful phantom weapon of the Void human tribe was a heaven-grade phantom weapon. Kong Shinmu also had such a weapon, so he was very clear about how powerful it was in enhancing the use of the power of the Void. It was precisely because he understood his opponent that Kong Shinmu could accurately estimate and confirm the degree of attack he could defend against. No matter what, Kong Shinmu's defensive ability had reached its peak. He had swallowed his opponent's distorted Void River, so his ability to resist the power of the Void had reached its peak. Moreover, he was purely relying on his physical body to resist the attack. The key now was to resist his opponent's attack. Because his opponent had just fought against a powerhouse from the ancient Phoenix tribe, he did not have much strength left. Furthermore, his opponent had not shown any means to quickly recover his strength. Even if he had taken some kind of recovery elixir in advance, he would not be able to use a similar attack again. Therefore, as long as Kong Shinmu resisted this attack, it would be Kong Shinmu's home ground. At this moment, everyone was nervously watching Kong Shinmu's arena. It could be said that among the 16 arenas, Kong Shinmu's arena was the one that received the most attention. No matter what, the fact that Kong Shinmu was able to fight against that Void human tribe powerhouse to this extent was already extremely shocking. But at this moment, everyone felt that Kong Shinmu should not have any chance of resisting his opponent's attack. He's going to use the Phantom Weapon. Sigh. Wouldn't it have been better if he had used it earlier? That's right. If he had used the Phantom Weapon earlier, Kong Shinmu would have been forced off the stage. He wouldn't have had to watch him strut around in the arena. This feeling is really unbearable. The dragon gods have produced such a genius. It would be the funniest thing if he died in the arena. I think this old fellow from the Void Human tribe wants to kill Kong Shinmu directly in the arena, right? I think that's also possible. However, it is unexpected that Kong Shinmu can resist such a powerful attack. Many people shook their heads. The Void Human tribe didn't expect Kong Shinmu's defense to be so powerful. If he used his trump card now, Kong Shinmu would probably surrender. In the eyes of many people, Kong Shinmu was about to admit defeat. This was because the Void Human tribe middle-aged man was about to use his specter weapon. That was a top-notch specter weapon. Moreover, this Void Human tribe middle-aged man was not young. His coordination with the specter weapon had already reached an extremely high level. In this way, if they launched an attack, Kong Shinmu would definitely have no chance of survival. If Kong Shinmu admitted defeat, wouldn't he lose a chance to kill Kong Shinmu? This made many people sigh in regret. However, as time passed, many people were still a little surprised. Kong Shinmu didn't surrender. Instead, he seemed to be on guard against the Void Human tribe middle-aged man. Could it be that this lad still wanted to take the next attack head-on? This scene surprised the Void Human tribe middle-aged man. As he gathered his strength, he activated the attack pattern in the blue gemstone. He calmly asked Kong Shinmu from the Dragon Gods, "Are you really not going to surrender? Are you going to take this attack of mine? You know that I don't want to be enemies with the Dragon Gods." If he killed Kong Shinmu, then the Dragon Gods would definitely view him as an enemy. In the future, it might not be easy or convenient to deal with him. However, if he could kill Kong Shinmu, then he would definitely do so if he notified him in advance. This meant that he would kill a possible enemy in the future. What if one day, they entered a middle-level relic together? According to the current speed of Kong Shinmu's growth, this was really too fast. In the future, when he entered a middle-level relic, he really might not be a match for Kong Shinmu. Therefore, if he could kill him now, of course, it was better to kill him as soon as possible. Moreover, if he notified him in advance, in the future in public, the Dragon Gods would not be able to use this reason to target him. This was the safest way. If he killed him directly, it was hard to say how the Dragon Gods would react. However, to his surprise, Kong Shinmu didn't respond to his question at all. It was as if he didn't hear him at all. He still maintained his previous defensive posture and continued to activate the power of the Great Compassion Sky Dragon Seal. Kong Shinmu maintained his strongest defensive power at all times. In fact, at this time, even if he withstood that kind of impact 10 or 20 times in a row, he wouldn't be injured at all. Even if the opponent's next attack was 10 times stronger, Kong Shinmu still wouldn't die. This was because he had already swallowed more than half of the power of the twisting Void River. His own defense against the power of the Void had reached the extreme of the extreme. When the opponent's power hit Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body, it could only exert less than 10% of its power. Seeing that Kong Shinmu was indifferent, the middle-aged man from the virtual human tribe sneered in his heart. However, on the surface, he shook his head with some pity. Then, the blue gemstone in front of his virtual god totem suddenly erupted with blue light. These light rays pierced through the void, like the sharpest knife cutting through the void. Then, these sharp knives directly swept toward Kong Shinmu. The blue void knives enveloped Kong Shinmu's black dragon body like raindrops. Golden light exploded, and the dark devouring power suddenly swept out. The blue void knives directly penetrated the golden light defense of the Great Compassion Sky Dragon Seal, then landed on the dark devouring power barrier of Kong Shinmu, and finally penetrated Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. If Kong Shinmu hadn't displayed his defensive posture, it was very likely that this move would have directly killed Kong Shinmu. But now, Kong Shinmu was in his strongest defensive form. Moreover, he had already swallowed the power of the void twice to increase his own resistance. Therefore, in the face of this virtual human tribe powerhouse's strongest attack, Kong Shinmu actually didn't die. Although the blue void knives had pierced through his body a few times, these holes quickly healed, and he was not fatally injured at all. In fact, even if the opponent had used the void weapon to attack Kong Shinmu previously, Kong Shinmu would not have died. He would only have been more seriously injured. Obviously, this middle-aged man from the virtual human tribe had now lost the possibility of killing Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu was very clear about this, but he still showed the blood splattering from his black dragon body. This was to confuse the opponent and make him mistakenly think that he was already seriously injured. Chapter 4862. At that moment, Kong Shinmu looked like he was seriously injured. His opponent's blue void blade had pierced through his body. It seemed like Kong Shinmu would not be able to withstand another attack from his opponent. The middle-aged man from the Void Human tribe did not know the extent of Kong Shinmu's defense. He was now using his top-notch phantom weapon. Coupled with his own top-notch power, how could he not be able to defeat Kong Shinmu? This was too illogical. Therefore, the middle-aged man from the Void Human tribe did not think that he would not be a match for Kong Shinmu. His empty god totem once again erupted with powerful void power. The void power condensed into a storm that swept towards the place where Jiang Shenwu's black dragon body was located. The sky was filled with void power. The distorted void power kept pressing down, making Kong Shinmu feel like he was in the center of a huge storm. However, his black dragon body did not move at all. The golden defensive light of the Great Sorrow Heavenly Dragon Seal continued to shine, blocking the void power storm around him. However, there was still a lot of void power that invaded Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. It seemed like Kong Shinmu was getting more and more injured. Of course, in reality, Kong Shinmu would not be injured in this kind of attack at all. He did not attack his opponent now because his opponent's power had not been completely depleted. Before entering the arena, his opponent had taken a restorative pill, so his power was still slowly recovering. Therefore, if Kong Shinmu attacked now, it was very likely that his opponent would block it. After all, Kong Shinmu's offensive dragon weapon, the Phantom Ghost Book, was not a purely defensive dragon weapon like the Great Sorrow Heavenly Dragon Seal. Instead, it was a sneak attack. Sneak attacks would still be known by others. Therefore, this kind of sneak attack would not be very effective against his opponent. After all, his opponent's understanding of void power was still very terrifying. How could Kong Shinmu succeed in a sneak attack using void power? However, Kong Shinmu was not worried. After all, he was already in an undefeatable position. Now, with the Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal, his own devouring power, and the enhancement of his draconic body refining technique, he could survive the indiscriminate bombardment of opponents of this level. Not only that, he could even emerge unscathed. Although he was injured at the start, he could devour his opponent's energy to recover from his injuries. The opponent's attack did not last for long. The middle-aged Void Human tribeman's power was almost depleted. However, at the same time in his eyes, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was already soaked with bright red dragon blood. He looked like he was on the verge of collapsing. Therefore, he smiled and said, "Kong Shinmu, you're almost at your limit. I didn't expect you to be able to endure this kind of attack. It's not easy." Initially, he wanted to use all his power to kill Kong Shinmu. However, he did not expect Kong Shinmu to be so resilient. Kong Shinmu was able to withstand the full force of his attack. Of course, in his eyes, Kong Shinmu was already seriously injured and could not withstand any more attacks. However, as soon as he said this, Kong Shinmu's laughter could be heard from the arena. "You're out of energy, aren't you? Then it's my turn to attack." "You, Kong Shinmu." The middle-aged Void Human tribeman did not expect Kong Shinmu to be able to speak. This was too strange, wasn't it? Moreover, this voice did not sound like it was injured at all. He immediately became alert. However, Kong Shinmu did not give him the time to be alert. Before he knew it, the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's power had already spread to the entire arena. Then, it devoured time. Around the empty god totem formed by the middle-aged man from the Void Human tribe, all the time in the area was devoured by Jiang Shenwu, and then converted into his own time according to a certain ratio. In this way, the middle-aged Void Human tribeman had lost half an incense stick of time. In this half an incense stick of time, Kong Shinmu had converted almost 500 times of time. This was because the middle-aged Void Human tribeman's cultivation base was higher than Kong Shinmu's. Therefore, the conversion rate of the devoured time was higher. In this half an incense stick of time, Kong Shinmu had converted almost 500 times of time. This meant that Kong Shinmu had gained an extra 5 days of time. The power of these 5 days encircled him. He could use these 5 days to cultivate and improve himself. The most important thing was to consolidate the power that he had yet to fully grasp after his breakthrough. Kong Shinmu did not take advantage of this opportunity to attack his opponent. After all, he was completely confident that he would win if he attacked his opponent in this state. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. Even if he only had a little bit of time left to attack, his opponent would definitely lose. Of course, this method sounded invincible, but in reality, Jiang Xinwu had to take advantage of the fact that the other party had lost their strength to use it. Otherwise, the other party would be able to defend against it at any time. Kong Xinmu also needed to consume a lot of the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's power to devour time. The heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's power was a power that could be recovered by Kong Xinmu, but it took a long time to recover. In short, he could only use this technique once in an arena battle. The recovery rate of the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's power was not very fast. Therefore, he could not use it in every arena battle. Of course, after this successful devouring, he would have 5 days to recover. Therefore, this was enough for him to continue using this technique in the next arena battle. It could be said to be a virtuous cycle. At this moment, Kong Xinmu began to consolidate his power. 5 days to him was only half an incense stick of time to the outside world. Outside the arena, Xueqi from the demon god tribe looked at Kong Xinmu nervously. He observed the changes in his black dragon body and was surprised to find that Kong Xinmu's aura had risen rapidly in this short period of time. Moreover, during this time, Kong Xinmu's speed seemed to have become extremely terrifying. Xueqi found that Kong Xinmu's black dragon body was moving in that area, but she could not see Kong Xinmu's movements at all. Nonsense! Kong Xinmu was now in a time acceleration of 500 times. What kind of observation skills would it take to see Kong Xinmu's movements clearly? Moreover, Kong Xinmu's speed was already very fast. Unfortunately, this technique could only be used on a target. He had to devour his opponent's time to transform it into his own. Otherwise, Kong Xinmu's ability would be heaven-defying. Chapter 4863. From another perspective, there was no need for Kong Xinmu to use this method of devouring time against a weaker opponent. When facing a level 4 martial emperor, the conversion rate of my devouring time is about 100 times. Now, when facing a level 9 martial emperor, the conversion rate of my devouring time is 500 times. According to my speculation, the increase in the conversion rate is multiplied according to the opponent's strength. In that case, if I were to face a Super Shenron, the conversion rate of my devouring time would probably be 1,000 times. The time it takes to burn a stick of incense is equivalent to about 20 days. How powerful would I be if I used this time to cultivate? Kong Xinmu could not help but be tempted. This ability was too terrifying. However, an opponent at the level of a Super Shenron was not easy to deal with. Unless he encountered an enemy supreme god who was severely injured, he would not be able to use this technique. Of course, even if he were to face a level 9 martial emperor, the conversion rate of his devouring time was still very good. With a conversion rate of 500 times, he could use the time it takes to burn a stick of incense as 10 days. This was already quite an impressive method. For Kong Xinmu, entering an intermediate relic would be the fastest time for him to improve. He could continuously devour other people's time and transform it into his own time, so that he could cultivate and improve through the devouring time. Of course, this was just Kong Xinmu's idea. It would not be so easy to make it a reality. At this moment, he had experienced about 5 days, which directly allowed him to consolidate about 10% of his strength that had increased a while ago. This allowed his overall combat strength to increase by about 10%. After all, the consolidation of this part of his strength allowed the strength that he used to coordinate with all the strength that he possessed. This allowed him to unleash his full strength. 5 days later. To the outside world, only half an incense's time had passed. Kong Xinmu's black dragon body suddenly moved. In the area where the flow of time had changed due to the devouring, no one could see Kong Xinmu's black dragon body clearly. Even supreme powerhouses could not see the situation clearly. However, when Kong Xinmu left the region of time he was in and arrived in front of the middle-aged virtual human tribeman whose time had been devoured, time returned to normal. 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion. Phantom Ghost Book. Kong Xinmu finally used his strongest move. At this time, the middle-aged man from the Void Human tribe had yet to recover much of his strength, so he had no way of defending himself. Kong Xinmu's 8-fold Flood Dragon Burst followed the power of the Void Walker Ghost scripture and exploded around his opponent's Void God totem, directly shattering it. In the eyes of the middle-aged man from the Void Human tribe, all he saw was a blur before Kong Xinmu's attack appeared in front of him. In fact, his memory stopped at the time when he was talking to Kong Shin-mu. His time was swallowed by Kong Shin-mu. In other words, he had lost this part of his time. Therefore, he had no idea what had happened during that period of time. The heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire was truly terrifying. It was not a power that the powerhouses of the various races could control. It was a unique inherited ability, and the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire didn't exist at the moment. Therefore, Kong Shin-mu's ability was simply unique. At this moment, the Void Human Tribe Man's Void God Totem was directly shattered by the eightfold Flood Dragon burst. This also announced the middle-aged man's defeat in this arena battle. In the storm, his body and the remains of the Void God Totem were blasted out of the arena. Kong Shin-mu won. At this moment, all the surrounding cultivators from the various races were watching the arena solemnly. The abilities that Jiang Shenwu had displayed in this battle were truly terrifying. Although his final attack had returned to its normal speed when it reached the middle-aged man from the Void Human Tribe and was no longer 500 times faster than after devouring time, this was still enough to shock everyone. If this kind of technique was used in a war between races, how powerful would it be? Even if the time he swallowed wasn't used by himself, wouldn't it be invincible if it was used by someone more powerful? Imagine a situation where there was a supreme powerhouse on both sides leading the other powerhouses to charge at them. Under such circumstances, Kong Shin-mu would appear and swallow the time of a supreme powerhouse of the same level. Then, he would use the time he swallowed to envelop the entire battlefield. This way, the powerhouses of the dragon gods would have more time to maneuver and respond. The supreme powerhouse could even fight one or two opponents at the same level, or they could prepare some even more terrifying techniques, such as a ninefold engraved heaven and earth holy grade, and so on. This was a strategic level ability. At this stage, Kong Shin-mu was only using it for his own cultivation. However, if there was a war in the future, no one knew what effect this ability of Kong Shin-mu's would have. This is the power of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of fire and ice. How could this kid have it? Our tribe once obtained the skeleton of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of fire and ice's inheritor. We wanted to obtain this ability from it, but we never succeeded. I don't know. This Kong Shin-mu seems to have some special techniques. These special techniques might even be more powerful than the inheritance of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of fire and ice. All the surrounding cultivators were in an uproar. Even the supreme powerhouses were extremely shocked. They looked at Kong Shin-mu with an unusual look in their eyes. If possible, they would definitely think of a way to get rid of Kong Shin-mu. However, it was more likely that they wanted to obtain this technique of Kong Shin-mu's. On the side of the demon gods, there were two supreme powerhouses. Seeing this, they laughed out loud. The demon gods had picked up a treasure. It seemed that the demon gods could indeed cooperate with the dragon gods. Moreover, this Kong Shin-mu's identity was quite special. Very special to the demon gods. It was unexpected that they could find such a special genius. For the demon gods, this was of great strategic significance. Of course, no matter how shocked and conflicted the people outside were, the 9th level of the Emperor stage continued. Chapter 4864. This expert from the demon god race was not Xueqi, but another young man from the demon god race. This young man was also at the 9th level of the Emperor realm. He didn't look too weak, but he wasn't very strong either. However, his understanding of the ethereal force wasn't weak either. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to appear in the arena. There were many people around who were eyeing Kong Shin-mu covetously. As soon as this young man appeared, he smiled at Kong Shin-mu. Kong Shin-mu, let me fight you. Although this was what he said, Kong Shin-mu felt that this guy's purpose in appearing in his arena was not so simple. In short, Kong Shin-mu had spent 5 days consolidating his strength. Therefore, his current combat strength had increased by about 10% compared to the last time he fought in the arena. This gave him enough confidence no matter what kind of opponent he faced. Even if this young man from the demon god race was extremely strong, Kong Shin-mu did not need to be afraid. At most, he would just admit defeat and step down from the arena. Anyway, this was only the first chance. Kong Shin-mu's original plan was to use this chance to devour an opponent's time to improve himself. This way, after 3 times, his strength would basically be completely consolidated. Therefore, Even if he lost this battle, it did not matter. This young man from the demon god race appeared in Kang Shinmu's arena and then transformed into a three-headed, six-armed demon. According to the consciousness of the demon god ancestor in Kang Shinmu's mind, this guy's demon god bloodline was the bloodline of the 10,000 Calamity demon god. This 10,000 Calamity demon god was once a capable subordinate of the demon god ancestor. The demon god ancestor was a 16-winged heavenly demon god, and the 10,000 Calamity demon god was a three-headed, six-armed demon god with a murderous heart. On the battlefield, it could be said that it was a killing machine. Even in a one-on-one battle, it was the kind that was very cruel. However, this kind of power was cruel. It also depended on the personality of the person who inherited it. Of course, to be able to receive the cruel inheritance of the 10,000 Calamity demon god meant that this young man from the demon god race was not very kind. Most importantly, Kang Shinmu felt that this young man with the 10,000 Calamity demon god race inheritance seemed to have the ability to crush him. He did not know if it was an illusion. It's Huang Yun, a genius of the demon god race who has recently risen to fame. Huang Yun is very strong. It seems like the demon god clan doesn't want Jiang Shenwu to suppress Xueqi of the imperial clan. Since Huang Yun is here, this Kang Shinmu will not be able to win consecutively. Demon race from the demon race. Huang Yun race, Su, said, Kang Shinmu god, Kang Shinmu race has. Yi. Many people in the spectator stands started whispering to each other. At this moment, Su Yi also found an opportunity to step onto an arena and fight fiercely with an opponent from the sea god race. In the process of the fight, it could be seen that Su Ye's combat power was not particularly strong. However, she was constantly improving herself and consolidating the strength that she had not yet mastered. In the battle, she became stronger and stronger. Obviously, the way she consolidated her strength was different from Kang Shinmu's. Kang Shinmu relied on devouring time to give himself enough time to consolidate his strength. But Su Yi relied purely on the battle to consolidate her strength. Moreover, it could be seen that Su Ye's strength had already been somewhat consolidated before participating in the arena battles. Perhaps before the arena battles began, she had already sparred with some experts of the same race in order to consolidate her realm strength that had yet to be consolidated. As a result, Su Yi was already ahead of Kang Shinmu. Moreover, she was now at the 7th level of the Demon Emperor's inherited bloodline grade. Therefore, she had a higher potential for improvement than Kang Shinmu. And if Kang Shinmu also broke through to the 7th level of the Demon Emperor, then the efficiency of time conversion from devouring his opponent's time power would not be as high as before. It might only be 300 times. After all, the efficiency of devouring time depended on the difference in realm between Kang Shinmu and his opponent, and not on the opponent's absolute realm. If Kang Shinmu improved, then when facing the same opponent, the efficiency of time conversion from devouring would naturally be reduced. This was detrimental to Kang Shinmu's consolidation. Therefore, to Kang Shinmu, this arena battle should only allow him to break through to the peak of the 6th level of the Emperor stage. The peak of the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor would not break through to the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor. Or rather, he would not break through unless it was necessary. In any case, if Kang Shinmu really wanted to break through, his devouring space stored a lot of Dragon Mark energy from the Earth Divine Dragon Marrow. This energy was completely enough for him to break through to the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor. Therefore, Kang Shinmu did not lack Dragon Mark energy. At this moment, Kang Shinmu and the demon god youth called Huang Yun were facing off. As the surrounding people discussed, this demon god youth named Huang Yun had the inheritance blood essence of Wanlu Heaven Tribulation demon god. Furthermore, he had risen to fame recently because he had killed so many people in a mid-grade relic. His strength could be said to be at the peak of the 9th level of the Emperor stage. In fact, Kang Shinmu could feel the same feeling from him as when he faced Gu Xinyue. That was, the other party's combat power was very likely to reach the 1st level of the Super Divine Dragon. This was terrifying. In fact, Kang Shinmu had also thought that there would be an existence with the same combat power as Gu Xinyue in this arena battle. If such an existence appeared, he would not be a match unless he used some special tricks or defeated the other party when he was not in a good state. However, Kang Shinmu did not expect to meet such an opponent so soon. The inheritor of the 10,000 Calamity demon god from the demon god race, Huang Yun. But, soon, Kang Shinmu and the other party started fighting fiercely. Then, Kong Shinmu realized that this Huang Yun did not seem to be using his full strength to fight him. I'll go easy on you. You seize the opportunity and improve well, okay? Suddenly, Kong Shinmu's 10,000 Calamity Demon God form and Kong Shinmu's Black Dragon body intertwined. A voice entered Kong Shinmu's ears, but no one else heard it. What did this mean? Go easy on him and seize the opportunity to improve well? Kong Shinmu was a little surprised. Could it be that this demon god youth, Huang Yun, was arranged by the demon god race? Kong Shinmu observed another arena not far away. Xueqi of the demon god race's royalty was fighting with the sea god race's elite. During the intense battle, Xueqi constantly looked for opportunities to consolidate his combat power and improve his control over his own strength. And now, Kong Shinmu seemed to have obtained such an opportunity, and it was a specially arranged opportunity. Chapter 48-65. Kong Shinmu started fighting Huang Yun. Huang Yun didn't use his Rage God demonic weapon, but Kong Shinmu had already used his Divine Dragon weapon. He had no choice. If he didn't use his full strength, he definitely wouldn't be a match for Huang Yun. This was because Huang Yun had been immersed in the 9th level of the Emperor realm for a long time. He wasn't someone that Kong Shinmu, who had only reached the 4th level of the Emperor realm, could compare to. Even if Kong Shinmu consolidated and controlled all of his power, he still wouldn't be a match for Huang Yun. Unless he could break through to the 7th level of the Emperor realm and cultivate the 9th level of the ultimate Flood Dragon explosion to the next level, it would be impossible for him to defeat Huang Yun. Otherwise, he would not have been able to defeat Huang Yun. This was the difference in strength between him and Gu Xinyue. Of course, if he could defeat Huang Yun, it would be easy for Kong Shinmu to deal with Luo En. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry. Ever since Kong Shinmu made the decision to participate in the 9th level of the Emperor realm, he didn't plan on becoming the champion. This Huang Yun was undoubtedly one of the candidates for the champion. He was someone that everyone, or rather, the Demon God clan, thought highly of. However, he was viewed as a great enemy by the other clans. Therefore, Kong Shinmu didn't plan on defeating Huang Yun. However, no matter what, he would definitely fight with all his strength to see how big the gap between him and Huang Yun was. This is a top-notch Rage God demonic technique that has already been cultivated to the sacred level. It's equivalent to the 9th level of the ultimate Flood Dragon explosion of the sacred level. I can only dodge. Kong Shinmu immediately used the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud to dodge. However, the power of Huang Yun's top-notch Rage God demonic technique still condensed into a huge demonic claw that directly grabbed Kong Shinmu's dragon tail. Huang Yun also had an extremely deep understanding of the power of the void. When Kong Shinmu used the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud, his target location had already been seen through by his opponent. Therefore, his opponent could completely wait for Kong Shinmu to arrive at the target location and then capture Kong Shinmu. So powerful. In the battle, Kong Shinmu felt like he was being crushed. In fact, Huang Yun did not even use his Rage God demonic weapon. This was different from his previous fight with Shangguan Dai. When he had fought Shangguan Dai, she had taken a step back and not used her full strength, nor had she used her Divine Spirit Dragon armament. However, apart from using his Desolate God demonic weapon, Huang Yun had unleashed his full strength. Of course, this also meant that Huang Yun had only used less than a third of his strength. If he were to use the Desolate God's demonic weapon, it would not be an exaggeration to say that his combat power would increase by 3 times. Therefore, Kong Shinmu was well aware of the gap between him and Huang Yun. However, it could be seen that Huang Yun had no intention of defeating Kong Shinmu at all. Instead, he was using this method to encourage Kong Shinmu and allow Kong Shinmu to consolidate the power of his breakthrough. On the other side, Xueqi was the same. As for Kong Shinmu's side, the demon god race had actually arranged for someone to spar with him. This was very puzzling. At least, Kong Shinmu was very puzzled. Of course, the other races definitely did not know this. Therefore, when they saw that Huang Yun did not use his Rage God demonic weapon to suppress Kong Shinmu, they found it very strange. Although Huang Yun was still suppressing Kong Shinmu, they still felt that the situation in the arena was a little strange. Kong Shinmu used his full strength to fight against Huang Yun. His black dragon body was even heavily injured several times, but he did not hit Huang Yun even once. This was because Huang Yun's attainments in void power were very high. Kong Shinmu's Voidwalker Ghost Scripture's concealment ability was not strong enough. In other words, Kong Shinmu's own realm was not strong enough. Otherwise, he would have made the Voidwalker Ghost Scripture's concealment attack even more invisible. Therefore, even though Kong Shinmu was not a match for his opponent now, it did not mean that Kong Shinmu would not be a match for his opponent after his realm increased. At this moment, Huang Yun was not in a hurry. He slowly fought with Kong Shinmu, constantly suppressing Kong Shinmu. And under his suppression, Kong Shinmu's 10,000 Calamity Demon God's power was constantly devoured by him. At the same time, he familiarized himself with his opponent's power, but he also deeply understood that he was currently not his opponent's match. Fortunately, Jiang Xinwu had been able to consolidate and control his mastery of the power to break through to the next realm in the midst of the intense battles. This allowed Kong Shinmu's consolidation of power to increase by about 10% in the fierce battle. This was equivalent to the time Kong Shinmu took to devour one opponent and obtain about 5 days to consolidate his power. Without a doubt, fighting was the fastest way to consolidate one's power. Xueqi was right. However, Kong Shinmu had other ways to consolidate his power. If he combined the two, he would definitely be faster than Xueqi. At this moment, Kong Shinmu and Huang Yun were fighting fiercely. Soon, the time it took for an incense stick to burn was almost over. During this time, Huang Yun did not use his top-notch Desolate God demonic weapon. In fact, when the time was almost up, he even took the initiative to retreat from the arena. Kong Shinmu, you are growing very fast. I look forward to fighting with you. Huang Yun removed his demon god form and cast an interested look at Kong Shinmu in his human form. This caused Jiang Xinwu and the surrounding cultivators to be incomparably shocked. What the hell was this? Could it be Huang Yun's quirk? He actually developed feelings for his opponent as they fought, and he was looking forward to his opponent's growth? This guy must be crazy. But soon, someone realized that something was wrong. Look, Xueqi of the Demon God clan is in the arena. It's the Dragon God clan. It's Shangguan Dyer. I think she's the chief dragon emperor of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. She went to fight Xueqi? But it doesn't look like she's using her full strength. Damn! Looks like the Demon God clan and the Dragon God clan have a secret deal. In order to cultivate their own clan's geniuses, they are exchanging geniuses to challenge and motivate them. Soon, the other clans guessed this, but they had no evidence. What evidence could they have to prove that the two sides were exchanging geniuses? If you are unhappy, you can come up and stop us. As long as you are faster than us, you can occupy a spot in the arena first and defeat Kong Shinmu and Xueqi. Everyone understood this logic, so no one said anything about it. As long as both sides did not go overboard, the others could not be bothered to say anything. Anyway, Kong Shinmu and Xueqi did not seem to be a threat to the final 16 arenas. Chapter 48-66. At this moment, the battle between Kong Shinmu and Huang Yun had already ended. Kong Shinmu only took a glance at Su Ye's side and realized that it was actually Shangguan Dyer who was fighting Xueqi. He had already roughly understood something. The Demon God clan and the Dragon God clan had made a deal. In order to cultivate the other party's young powerhouses, they had exchanged some strategies. For example, letting Huang Yun fight Jiang Xinwu, or Xueqi fight Shangguan Dyer. That way, both of them would be able to strengthen their control and consolidate their power. In that way, both of them would be able to easily obtain a better result on this stage. No matter what, Kong Shinmu's combat power was much higher than before. Immediately after, the opponent that appeared in front of Kong Shinmu was beyond his expectations. It was actually a genius cultivator from the Demon God clan, and he had seen this guy before. The Limitless Thief Demon God successor, Lin Xiaotian. He had once fought with Kong Shinmu in a supreme relic in the Dragon Martial Continent and killed a Dragon Emperor mentor from Donghuang Yonggu College. When Kong Shinmu saw Lin Xiaotian, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He didn't know what position Lin Xiaotian would take now. Would he come out to help him like Huang Yun, or would he really come out to deal with him? Kong Shinmu didn't know, but when Lin Xiaotian came out to see Kong Shinmu, he directly descended on the arena, before the other powerhouses of the other clans. Lin Xiaotian had the inheritance of the Limitless Thief Demon God, so his speed and void ability were naturally extremely strong. At this moment, he wanted to seize this arena, and the other powerhouses of the other clans couldn't win against him. After appearing in front of Kong Shinmu, Lin Xiaotian chuckled. "Brother, we meet again. Let's have a good fight, come on." Following Lin Xiaotian's words, he directly transformed into the form of the limitless thief demon god, and the black demon god's body swept towards Kong Shinmu. Lin Xiaotian's strength was clearly inferior to Huang Yun's. Therefore, when Lin Xiaotian transformed into his limitless thief fiend celestial form and attacked Kong Shinmu, he used a desolate god's demonic weapon dagger. Kong Shinmu could feel that Lin Xiaotian did not reveal any killing intent on his way here. It was obvious that Lin Xiaotian was not here to kill him. It was even possible that the demon god race had sent him to fight against Kong Shinmu to train and nurture Kong Shinmu. So he relaxed. Without a doubt, this Lin Xiaotian knew something. He knew that Kong Shinmu could transform into the body of the demon god race's 16-winged heavenly demon god. This was the royal inheritance of the demon god race. Lin Xiaotian would never believe that Kong Shinmu did not have any secrets. However, because this matter concerned the royal bloodline, Lin Xiaotian did not make a big fuss after he left. He only secretly found a member of the royal family and consulted about Kong Shinmu. In the end, he learned one thing, and that was that Kong Shinmu was really a dragon martial artist related to the demon god race's royal family. Lin Xiaotian did not know what their relationship was, but the fact that a person could cultivate two different inherited powers of the dragon god race and the demon god race at the same time was enough to shock the world. Although this was not the first time something like this had happened, the last time something like this had happened was during the 100 Years. Moreover, the records were not very complete, so it was obvious that this kind of thing was extremely rare. In any case, Lin Xiaotian did not have any enmity towards Kong Shinmu. After all, they had worked together to fight against the enemy. Now that he had appeared to cooperate with Kong Shinmu, there was no doubt that it would not be a problem for Kong Shinmu to consolidate and master his power faster. The two sides exchanged blows on the arena, and then, the many experts of the various races who were watching the battle covered their faces with their hands. They really did not expect the dragon god race and the demon god race to be so shameless. But if they were to be accused now, they would never admit it. They could only think of a way to get rid of Kong Shinmu and Xueqi first. Of course, getting rid of them was the safest and most comfortable result. But even if they could not get rid of them, even if they were defeated and thrown out of the arena, it would still be a very good result. At this moment, the battle between Xueqi and Shangguan Dyer quickly ended. Then, just like Huang Yun, Shangguan Dyer deliberately lost the battle. Otherwise, Xueqi would not be her match. Although Shangguan Dyer could not compare to the demon god races Wan Lu or the heaven calamity demon god Huang Yun, her combat power was not something that the current Xueqi could fight against. Fortunately, in the last period, Xueqi felt that he had consolidated and mastered a lot of power. Under the layers of pressure from Shangguan Dyer, he was actually able to barely hold on. It could be seen that his power had reached about half of Shangguan Dyer's. Of course, this was the situation where Shangguan Dyer did not use the heaven-ranked divine dragon weapon. Once she used the heaven-ranked divine dragon weapon, she would definitely be able to crush Xueqi. Naturally, this was referring to the current Xueqi. When Xueqi truly consolidated and mastered his power, it was very likely that Shangguan Dyer would only be able to fight him to a draw. This was why she and Kong Shinmu needed to fight in the arena to break through their limits. In a sparring match, although it was possible to consolidate and control one's strength, the efficiency would definitely be slower. However, in the arena fights, the opponents would definitely not hold back. Even if they had arranged for Shangguan Dyer or Huang Yun, it would be under the condition that they would be able to suppress them, and not give them any chances. The battle between Kong Shinmu and Lin Xiaotian was the same. Kong Shinmu and Lin Xiaotian's strength could be said to be about the same. Previously, in the supreme ruins of the Dragon Martial Continent, the battle strength that Lin Xiaotian displayed was about the same as the strength of Kong Shinmu's demon god race. Who would have thought that in such a short period of time, Lin Xiaotian would have improved so much? This was truly terrifying. Even Kong Shinmu had to rely on so many cultivation resources to advance to this level. It was indeed very rare for Lin Xiaotian to be able to keep up with his progress. The key point was that Lin Xiaotian was able to slightly suppress Kong Shinmu by relying on the various methods and abilities of the limitless thief demon god. It could be seen that Kong Shinmu was actually a little behind. It was unbelievable. This inheritor of the limitless thief demon god has a very good family background. Although he is not from the royal family of the demon god race, he is still a descendant of a noble family. Otherwise, he would not have been able to come into contact with the royal powerhouses. His cultivation resources are definitely not any less than yours. Furthermore, this fellow was originally a high-level emperor stage existence. What's so strange about him being stronger than you now? Chapter 4867. At this moment, although Kong Shinmu was slightly suppressed in his battle with Lin Xiaotian, it was just the right time for him to consolidate the power that he had yet to control. The speed of consolidation was even faster than when he fought against Huang Yun. After all, he knew that Huang Yun was not a threat to him, but this Lin Xiaotian. Kong Shinmu treated him as a real opponent. Therefore, no matter what technique he used, he would use his strongest technique. He would use all of his strength without holding back at all. Of course, apart from the inherited power of other races, Kong Shinmu basically used all of them. He wanted to defeat Lin Xiaotian fair and square, which gave him a lot of willpower. This willpower pushed him to continuously consolidate the power that he had not grasped during his recent breakthrough. In a short period of time, the most intense battle took place between the two sides. Even Kong Shinmu's black dragon body was drenched in blood, and Lin Xiaotian's limitless thief demon god body was also seriously injured by Kong Shinmu's 8-stage flood dragon burst. At the beginning, Kong Shinmu was still suppressed by Lin Xiaotian, but as Kong Shinmu's power was consolidated and controlled, Lin Xiaotian was really no match for Kong Shinmu. Originally, his biggest advantage over Kong Shinmu was the grade of the inherited blood essence. However, as Kong Shinmu's power continued to consolidate and improve, and was constantly controlled, Lin Xiaotian's advantage became weaker and weaker. In front of Kong Shinmu, he devoured Lin Xiaotian's demon god power, which increased his resistance to Lin Xiaotian's demon god power, allowing him to surpass 3 levels of inherited blood essence to fight against Lin Xiaotian. When the last moment of the incense sticks time arrived, Kong Shinmu finally blasted Lin Xiaotian out of the arena. This scene caused many people to raise their eyebrows. Too strong, Kong Shinmu's growth speed was too fast. If he did not suppress Kong Shinmu, perhaps when Kong Shinmu truly consolidated and grasped the power brought about by his breakthrough, he might really become one of the 16 people standing in the arena. Therefore, when Lin Xiaotian was blasted out of the arena by Kong Shinmu, an expert from the Sea God clan immediately appeared in front of Kong Shinmu. Wei Mengtian of the Sea God clan's shrimp tribe had once died in the hands of Kong Shinmu, but very few people knew about this. Of course, the expert from the Sea God clan who appeared in front of Kong Shinmu did not know about this. This expert from the Sea God race came from the turtle tribe of the Sea God race. The Sea God race was divided into divisions based on the creatures of the sea, mainly because their inheritance came from the sea. Under the Sea God clan's turtle tribe, the Sea God clan was divided by the creatures in the sea, mainly because their inheritance came from the sea. To Kong Shinmu, the expert from the Sea God clan's turtle tribe in front of him could be said to have an indestructible defense. Therefore, he stood up and wanted to use his strongest defense to knock Kong Shinmu out of the arena. In short, many of the experts from various clans surrounding Kong Shinmu's arena were at the 9th level of the Emperor realm and thought that they were very strong. They all felt that they could use their advantage to knock Kong Shinmu out of the arena. Therefore, the expert from the Sea God clan's turtle tribe who appeared in front of Kong Shinmu was also very confident. Jiang Shenwu didn't think much of it. When he saw the other party, he frowned. After all, the other party's defense seemed very strong. The sea god phantom that the other party had transformed into was actually faintly covered by a turtle shell. The layers of defense were extremely terrifying. However, after thinking about it, Kong Shinmu did not care. He transformed into a black dragon and swept towards the opponent. The arena battles came one after another. Kong Shinmu did not have time to check on Su Ye's condition. He had to focus on his opponent. As long as he could defeat another opponent in such an arena, his control and consolidation of power would increase by a large margin. If he could do this 2 or 3 more times, he might be able to consolidate all the power he had lost from his consecutive breakthroughs. When he completely consolidated his power to the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor, Kong Shinmu's power would truly reach the level of a 9th level Emperor Realm expert. It would not be like now, where he was at a disadvantage against every 9th level Emperor Realm expert. He might not even be able to defeat his opponent. What Kong Shinmu wanted was to have a fighting chance against every 9th level Emperor Realm expert. He would not have no chance of winning against an expert like Huang Yun. Therefore, it was very likely that he would continue to break through to the 7th level Emperor realm after consolidating his current power. Although the conversion efficiency of the time he devoured in the arena would be much lower, it was still necessary for him to become stronger. Perhaps, should he first break through to the 8th level Rebirth realm before breaking through to the 7th level Emperor realm? This way, Kong Shinmu's fighting power would be greatly increased. Furthermore, it would not affect the conversion efficiency of the time he devoured. However, if he wanted to break through to the 8th level Rebirth realm, he had to defeat 2 reincarnation beasts. I'm afraid it will not be easy to defeat 2 reincarnation beasts in the arena. Who would sit back and watch me break through? As long as they cause trouble, I will fail to break through. Therefore, I can consider leaving the arena after consolidating the power of my current realm. When I break through, I can return to the arena. This plan was not bad. After thinking about it, Kong Shinmu decided to do it. Currently, the most important thing for him was to continuously consolidate his power in the arena. He had yet to completely master the power he had obtained from breaking through consecutively. It would not be easy for him to completely master it. At this moment, he was facing the Sea God clan's turtle tribe cultivator with a strong defense. He immediately launched a ferocious attack. Kong Shinmu's 8-stage flood dragon explosion bombarded the opponent's body as if it did not consume any energy. This caused the opponent to continuously release the most terrifying energy ripples. However, the opponent's defense was simply impregnable. The layers of the Sea God Phantom's turtle shell defense did not seem to be damaged at all. Give up, kid. You can't break through my defense. The Sea God clan cultivator snorted coldly. At the same time, Kong Shinmu felt a kind of power condensing. It was somewhat similar to what Kong Shinmu had felt before. This Sea God clan cultivator was actually using his attack to condense a terrifying attack. This attack was what the opponent had relied on to blast Kong Shinmu out of the arena. Chapter 4868. A part of the power that the opponent was gathering came from Kong Shinmu's attack. Therefore, the opponent seemed to be devouring Kong Shinmu's power. Unfortunately, Kong Shinmu couldn't be more familiar with this method. Of course, it was impossible for him not to prepare for it. This attack is very likely to cover the entire arena. At that time, there will be no place for me to hide. As for defense, since the opponent is confident that he can use this move to throw me out of the arena, then he must have made sure that I won't be able to block it with my defensive ability. Everyone knew that any attack that needed to be stored for a long time would definitely have a terrifying destructive power. If Huang Yun didn't use the Desolate God's demonic weapon, his attack wouldn't be able to break through Kong Shinmu's defense. After all, Kong Shinmu's Great Sorrow Sky Dragon Seal was very strong. Moreover, it had been transformed by the heaven-shocking gemstone. Coupled with the Body Refinement Dragon Technique and the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique, his defense was considered the strongest at this level. However, the attack of the Sea God Tribe's Turtle Clan was definitely stronger than Huang Yun's attack. It might even be stronger than Huang Yun's attack after he used the Desolate God's demonic weapon. This attack had a fatal weakness. If it was in the outside world and they fought in an open area, the opponent wouldn't wait for the opponent to finish accumulating power. He would immediately escape and disappear. Why would he wait for the opponent to accumulate power? However, he was in the ring now. Where could Kong Shinmu run to? That attack could cover the entire ring. Therefore, this was the reason why the Sea God Tribe's Turtle Clan was so confident that he could throw Kong Shinmu out of the ring. With his ability, he might even become one of the candidates standing in the final 16 arenas. However, it was a pity that he didn't know that Kong Shinmu was already tired of using this method. If Kong Shinmu used his devouring power, he could gather enough power to counterattack. Even Huang Yun and the others might not be able to block it. Of course, Kong Shinmu's counterattack might not be a threat to Huang Yun. After all, just like Kong Shinmu had a way to avoid the Sea God Tribe's Turtle Clan's attack. Therefore, Kong Shinmu didn't think much about it. He continued to unleash the 9th stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Burst, a high-grade Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique. At the same time, he constantly urged the power of the illusory Ghost Book, causing it to erupt with its strongest power. This explosive power directly exploded on the Sea God projection of the expert from the Turtle Tribe, but it was unable to cause any damage. In the face of such a terrifying defense, it was as if all attacks were futile. But to Jiang Xinwu, this was the best way for him to solidify his control over his power, and to further strengthen his affinity with the Voidwalker Ghost Tome. Therefore, Kong Xinmu didn't stop his attacks and continued to attack his opponent. Finally, after half an incense stick's time, the Sea God Tribe's Turtle Clan powerhouse's power was completely condensed. Then, a storm mixed with rain appeared on the entire ring. This storm seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. It was a terrifying power that swept out from the Sea God's silhouette of the Turtle Clan powerhouse. It was as if every inch of space on the stage had begun to brew up a storm, and these storms actually contained the power of lightning. Surge, Sea God Storm! Following the Sea God Tribe powerhouse's shout, a Sea God Storm instantly erupted. This Sea God Storm seemed to appear from every inch of the void. Then, with lightning, incomparably sharp ice blades, and wind blades, it began to attack the entire ring. This kid is too careless. Kong Xinmu won't be able to defend against this move. If he doesn't retreat from the ring, I'm afraid he'll die in the ring. At least with the defensive ability he has displayed, he won't be able to withstand this move. The lethality and destructive power of this move are too strong. This kid. If he dies in the ring, that would be a joke, he. Among the spectators, there were some who were nervous about the situation that Kong Xinmu was currently facing. However, there were even more who were looking forward to and rejoicing in his misfortune. After all, most of the people present were on different sides from Kong Xinmu. They were all powerful cultivators from other clans. Therefore, these people originally wanted to see Kong Xinmu die in the ring. When they saw this scene, they were naturally incomparably happy. Even if this move couldn't kill Kong Xinmu in the ring, it would definitely be enough to make Kong Xinmu leave the ring. Once he left the ring, it would mean that Kong Xinmu's first attack on the ring had failed. There were still 2 more chances. As long as Kong Xinmu wasn't given a chance, then Kong Xinmu definitely wouldn't be the dark horse in this ring battle. No one could watch as Kong Xinmu and Xueqi rose from the 4th level of the Martial Emperor stage to the 9th level of the Martial Emperor stage after just breaking through to the 4th level. To Xueqi and Kong Xinmu, this was a triumphant progress. To the Demon God Clan and Dragon Gods Clan, it was a huge boost in prestige. Therefore, there would definitely be many obstructions. Of course, among the clans, the strongest people like Huang Yun would rarely appear in the ring where Xueqi and Kong Xinmu were. After all, the strongest people had to fight for the first place. They had to use the 3 chances to ensure that they would eventually stand in the 16 rings. They also needed to make a move at the crucial moment to push out some of the most important opponents. They wanted to fight for a higher ranking and finally participate in the elimination round. Therefore, when Kong Xinmu and Xueqi appeared, these strongest people would almost never appear in the ring where they were. First, if they made a move to deal with Kong Xinmu and Xueqi, it would be too embarrassing. Second, they couldn't waste their chances to attack the 2 of them. After all, in the eyes of people at Huang Yun's level, Kong Xinmu and Xueqi weren't mature enough. They wouldn't pose any threat to their strength. Therefore, the most important people now were the middle and high-level experts in the 9th level of the Martial Emperor stage who wanted to defeat Kong Xinmu and Xueqi. At this moment, on the ring where Kong Xinmu was, the Sea God Storm crazily surged. Endless ice blades, wind blades, storms, and tsunamis continuously swept up within the ring. The experts on the periphery didn't even know what was happening on the ring. Under such a fierce and large-scale attack, not to mention 1 Kong Xinmu, even 10 Kong Xinmu or even 100 Kong Xinmus wouldn't be able to survive. This attack was too fierce. Even Huang Yun felt a little emotional. Even he couldn't defend against such a powerful attack head-on. Chapter 4869. In the arena, the Sea God's tempest slowly dissipated. However, as the Sea God's tempest dissipated, no one saw Kong Xinmu appear outside the arena. This meant that Kong Xinmu hadn't fled the arena and admitted defeat. Where is this kid? Don't tell me he was killed by the Sea God's tempest? If that's the case, then it's really a joke. No matter what, this brat still made us nervous for a period of time. However, this brat would rather die than retreat. His backbone is truly shocking. So what if it's shocking? This kid is still dead. If he's dead, then there's nothing left? While this person was speaking, a situation suddenly appeared in the arena. After the sea god's tempest dissipated, there was originally nothing in the arena except for the sea god projection of the turtle tribe powerhouse. However, the entrance to an alternate dimension suddenly appeared. Immediately afterward, a black shadow appeared lazily from the entrance to this alternate dimension. It seemed to be Kong Shinmu's Dragon Emperor Black Dragon body. The appearance of this scene caused the expressions of everyone present to become slightly unsightly. Alternate dimension? This Kong Shinmu had actually mastered the means to create alternate dimensions? However, before the people in the arena could react, a sudden change occurred. While everyone's attention was focused on the alternate dimension, Kong Shinmu's Black Dragon body suddenly appeared behind the sea god projection of the turtle tribe powerhouse. The powerhouse's attention was not on this side at all. However, it was also at this moment that Kong Shinmu's heaven-deficient demonic ice-fire dragon power completely erupted. With a loud bang, it directly swallowed the time around the powerhouse from the sea god clan. There were actually two alternate dimensions in the arena. The first alternate dimension was created by Kong Shinmu using the alternate dimension space-time tablet, a spectral weapon. He also condensed a ball of devouring power in it, making it look like he was inside. This was used to confuse everyone, especially the powerhouse from the Sea God clan in front of him. The other alternate dimension was created by Jiang Shenwu by relying on the blade shadow flowing sunset flash that he had grasped. His mastery of the power of the void and his understanding of the wind shadow flowing flash allowed him to completely create an alternate dimension and hide himself in it. No matter how powerful the sea god's tempest was, it could not force its way into the alternate dimension. Then, as the sea god's storm disappeared, everyone's attention was on the first alternate dimension that Jiang Shenwu had created. The Sea God clan powerhouse didn't notice that there was another alternate dimension behind him. Immediately afterward, Kong Shinmu used the power of the heaven-deficient demonic ice-fire dragon to swallow the Sea God clan powerhouse's time. The other party had just released a terrifying killing move and hadn't noticed Jiang Shenwu's appearance at all. Therefore, Jiang Shenwu's sudden sneak attack had left the Sea God clan powerhouse without any time to react. The Sea God clan powerhouse's time flowed continuously, causing the flow of time around Kong Shinmu to become faster. Success. Next, even though the Sea God clan powerhouse had an impenetrable defense like a tortoise shell, it was impossible for him to block Kong Shinmu's attacks. Now I have 5 days. This Sea God clan powerhouse will not move for 5 days. I should be able to break through his tortoise shell defense in these 5 days, right? Kong Shinmu's lips curled up. This would also allow him to consolidate his own strength and become more compatible with the Phantom Ghost Book, a heaven-grade divine spiritual dragon weapon, so that he could unleash more power. Next, he began to launch attacks at the Sea God clan powerhouse. How many attacks could he launch in 5 days? It was unimaginable. To outsiders, this wasn't 5 days at all. It was less than half an incense stick's time. In this half an incense stick's time, they felt as if Jiang Shenwu had launched thousands of attacks on the Sea God clan powerhouse. Moreover, every attack was stronger than the last. It was obvious that Kong Shinmu was constantly mastering and consolidating the powerful strength that he had obtained through successive breakthroughs during the process of attacking. In a short period of time, he had launched thousands of attacks. That was all the attacks that Kong Shinmu had launched in 5 days, and there was not even a moment of rest. If the power was exhausted, Kong Shinmu would directly use it from the devouring space. Just now, he had taken the opportunity to devour a lot of the power of the Sea God Tempest attack from the Sea God clan powerhouse. Now, this power was transformed into the purest devouring innate power and was used to condense the 8-stage Flood Dragon explosion to attack the opponent. This kind of attack made everyone in the field feel a little terrified. Devour time, then use the time devoured to launch a fatal attack on the opponent. Logically speaking, the defense of the Turtle Tribe powerhouse should be indestructible in front of Kong Shinmu. With unparalleled combat strength, it should have been impossible for Kong Shinmu to break it. However, after half an incense stick's time, or rather, after Kong Shinmu had launched thousands of attacks in 5 days, the Sea God clan's Sea God Phantom finally exploded under the attack of the 9-stage Flood Dragon explosion. This guy's defense was really terrifying. Even if the Sea God's Phantom exploded, it would start to explode bit by bit, and not as a whole. This also meant that there was still a huge gap between Jiang Shenwu's strength and this guy's. Under normal circumstances, There was no way he could defeat the Sea God clan's turtle tribe powerhouse. But now, by relying on the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire's ability to devour time, he launched thousands of attacks. The 9-stage flood dragon explosion didn't actually break the opponent's defense. It was only because Kong Shinmu had completely exhausted the opponent's defense. If the opponent's defense hadn't been exhausted, Kong Shinmu wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. If this guy had cultivated the Dark Dragon inferiority technique, maybe I wouldn't have been able to kill him. Kong Shinmu couldn't help but chuckle when he thought of a dragon technique. The Dark Dragon art of filth mastery could heal one's injuries and expended energy. Even if one's time was completely consumed, the effects of the Dark Dragon art of filth mastery would still take effect. This was something that Jiang Shenwu had tried before. Therefore, he could only blame the Sea God clan's turtle tribe powerhouse for not being skilled enough. At this moment, Jiang Shenwu erupted with his strongest and most terrifying attack, directly shattering the Sea God's projection into pieces. Chapter 48-70. Kong Shinmu had won again. This was something that no one present had expected. Even when the Turtle Clan's powerhouse was blasted out of the arena, no one rushed to step onto Kong Shinmu's arena. This was because Kong Shinmu's performance just now was too shocking. First, it was the creation of 2 alternate dimensions. It could be said that even if Kong Shinmu could create an alternate dimension, it would still be shocking enough to use as a counterpoint to the Sea God's storm. After all, creating an alternate dimension was not an easy task. It required a very deep understanding of the power of void and space. Even among the true 9th stage Emperor stage powerhouses, less than 10% of them could do this. Among them, the powerhouses from the Void Human clan could do it the most. Of course, overall the number of people who could do this was relatively low. Alternate dimensions were basically only used for supreme god-level comprehension. For example, existences at the level of super divine dragons and super demon gods could easily comprehend these techniques. But now, Kong Shinmu had created 2 alternate dimensions. Was Kong Shinmu a demon? One could imagine that Kong Shinmu had not just learned this technique. In other words, Kong Shinmu had already learned this technique when he was at the 4th stage of the Emperor stage. This was simply terrifying. Just how powerful was this kind of understanding and comprehension of the power of the void? Even the geniuses from the Void Human clan could only do this, right? Furthermore, Jiang Shenwu had directly created 2 alternate dimensions on the battlefield and even used one of them to attract everyone's attention. To be honest, even if Jiang Shenwu used one of the alternate dimensions to dodge the attack, it would still be impossible for him to defeat the Sea God race's turtle tribe expert. This was because if he was prepared, it would be almost impossible for Kong Shinmu to devour this fellow's time. However, Kong Shinmu had used an alternate dimension to attract this fellow's attention. Then, he launched a sneak attack from behind, thus achieving his goal of devouring his opponent's time. Then, after devouring his opponent's time, he used the converted time to launch a terrifying 10,000 attacks in the short time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Who could withstand the attacks of over 10,000 high-grade divine spirit dragon martial skills? Logically speaking, a dragon warrior would be completely exhausted if he could unleash this kind of attack 10 times. However, Kong Shinmu had unleashed tens of thousands of attacks? This was simply terrifying. How did Kong Shinmu recover his strength? What kind of method did Kong Shinmu use to defeat an opponent that he had no chance of defeating? Everyone on the Sea God race's side was shocked. The expert from the Turtle Clan of the Sea God clan who had just been thrown out of the arena was one of the experts from the Sea God clan who had participated in the 9th layer of the Martial Emperor realm. Furthermore, he was one of the top experts. Some people had even asserted that in terms of arena battles, it was impossible for anyone of the same realm to be a match for this genius. This was because his defensive ability had reached the peak of the 9th layer of the Martial Emperor realm. His offensive ability was also based on his defensive ability. When stacked together, it produced a terrifying effect that was impossible to avoid. In a battlefield like the arena, this fellow was practically invincible. Even if someone could use an alternate dimension to dodge his Sea God storm, they would not be able to harm him. He was completely invincible. But now, Kong Shinmu had used his ability to devour time to completely defeat this fellow. Not only did he defeat this fellow, he even seriously injured him. It must be known that this fellow had not been injured for a long time. Terror, shock, and all sorts of similar emotions spread in the hearts of everyone present. Could it be that Kong Shinmu was already invincible in the 9th layer of the Martial Emperor realm? No one knew that Kong Shinmu was currently consolidating his strength. After 5 days of continuous bombardment of the Turtle Tribe expert, Kong Shinmu could be said to have made great progress. This was a live target that gave him a lot of pressure. After the first 1,000 attacks, Kong Shinmu was actually on the verge of collapse. This fellow's defense was too strong. His defense was actually not broken after 1,000 attacks? This was simply unimaginable. Therefore, Kong Shinmu was currently under great pressure. After attacking this fellow thousands of times to no avail, he even thought of giving up. Perhaps the intensity of his attacks was not enough to deal with an opponent of this level. But in the end, he still clenched his teeth and persevered. During this period of time, his 9th stage ultimate dragon explosion had finally been cultivated to the 9th stage. He could use the complete 9th stage extreme Dao roaring dragon explosion. During this period of time, he had also devoured a lot of dark attribute spiritual energy essence. He had prepared some of these cultivation resources on him, but he did not expect to actually use them. If he had not broken through the 9th stage ultimate dragon explosion to the 9th stage, he would not have been able to break this fellow's turtle shell defense. And this was not the only thing that had changed. During this period of time, Kong Shinmu had almost completely consolidated the power that he had not yet grasped after his successive breakthroughs. He had now truly transformed into a powerhouse at the 6th stage of the Dragon Emperor. Moreover, his direct combat ability was already comparable to that of an ordinary 9th stage Emperor tier cultivator. A freak like Huang Yun didn't count for now. In any case, Jiang Shenwu really wasn't Huang Yun's match. Even if his power had been completely consolidated, his strength was only 30% higher than before. And Huang Yun was an existence that was at least 3 times stronger than him. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had to raise his cultivation level to be able to contend with Huang Yun. Of course, Kong Shinmu had also gained something, and that was his compatibility with the Phantom Ghost Book. Originally, there was not much compatibility between Kong Shinmu and the Phantom Ghost Book. He could only use 70% of the Phantom Ghost Book's power. However, after these 10,000 violent attacks, and these continuous attacks, his compatibility with the Phantom Ghost Book had skyrocketed. Now, he could use 80% of the Phantom Ghost Book's power. 80% of the Phantom Ghost Book's power was already a considerable improvement. At the very least, it increased the destructive power of Kong Shinmu's attacks by 10%. This was an incredible change. If he could be completely compatible with the Phantom Ghost Book, then Kong Shinmu's battle prowess would increase by at least 50%. Because if he was completely compatible with the Phantom Ghost Book, then he would be fusing with a dragon weapon. However, logically speaking, the higher the level of a dragon weapon, the more difficult it was to fuse with it. Kong Shinmu had seen people fuse with some ordinary Earth-grade and Heaven-grade dragon weapons, but he had never seen a dragon warrior fuse with a holy dragon weapon. Chapter 4871. After all, although Kong Shinmu's strength had improved very quickly, his experience was indeed much less than most people's. Of course, in this arena battle, I'll definitely see some existences that have fused with divine dragon weapons, right? For example, Huang Yun seems to have fused with a top-notch desolate god demonic weapon. Because of this, his battle strength is recognized as the strongest at the 9th level of the Martial Emperor stage. Kong Shinmu thought to himself, no matter what, this battle with the expert from the Turtle Tribe of the Sea God clan was extremely important to him. Originally, he thought that he would need to use 2 opportunities to attack the arena to adapt to his current battle strength. He did not expect that he would be able to gain a firm foothold in the arena before he even used up the opportunity to attack the arena. Of course, a very important factor was that the Demon God clan had consecutively sent Huang Yun and Lin Xiaotian to fight against him. These 2 battles were closer to the nature of exchanging pointers, and this allowed Kong Shinmu to consolidate and master his strength by a lot. Otherwise, if Kong Shinmu had directly encountered the expert from the Turtle Tribe in his second battle, he really would not have been able to defeat this guy. At that time, the strength that he had consolidated and mastered was far from what it was now. Even if he was given 5 days to successfully devour, he was afraid that he would not be able to break through the defense of the expert from the Turtle Tribe. The difference in accumulation between the two was too great. This expert from the turtle tribe of the Sea God clan had probably been stuck at the 9th level of the martial emperor stage for a few years, or even more than a decade. How could Kong Shinmu compare with him in terms of foundation? Fortunately, Kong Shinmu had used his own special methods to defeat this guy. Moreover, he had instantly deterred the surrounding experts from the various clans who wanted to challenge his arena. Originally, these people were fighting to be the first to challenge Kong Shinmu, but now they really did not know how to deal with Kong Shinmu. They wanted to attack and were originally full of confidence, but after seeing Kong Shinmu defeat the expert from the Sea God clan, they all retreated a little. It was not that they were really afraid of Kong Shinmu, but rather, they were afraid of the impact of being defeated by Kong Shinmu. If they could not even defeat a 6th-level martial emperor dragon warrior junior, how could they have the face to educate their juniors? Perhaps losing to Kong Shinmu would be a stain on their lives. These were all people at the level of the Dragon Emperor Menta. Moreover, they were considered to be relatively strong among the Dragon Emperor mentors. They were at level 9 Emperor stage, almost reaching the Supreme God stage. How could an expert of such a level not have pride? How could he not have dignity? For a moment, no one stepped onto Kong Shinmu's arena and continued to challenge Kong Shinmu. For a moment, no one stepped onto Kong Shinmu's arena and continued to challenge Kong Shinmu. The guys who had been clamoring to defeat Kong Shinmu were all silent now. Shangguan Dai, had just sparred with Xueqi. She had to admit that Xueqi's talent was outstanding, and it was indeed possible for him to surpass her very soon. Based on Xueqi's growth rate, he would probably catch up to her strength in the later stages of this arena battle. However, it was basically impossible for him to surpass her. Shangguan Dai was very sure of this. Originally, she had thought that Kong Shinmu would be the same, but she had not expected that Kong Shinmu would actually use some strange methods to defeat the expert from the Sea God clan. One had to know that the expert from the turtle tribe of the Sea God clan was an opponent that even Shangguan Dai found very troublesome. She might not even be able to defeat him in an environment like the arena. However, she had not expected that Kong Shinmu would actually be able to do this, and he had even eliminated this guy in an extremely shocking manner. This guy was originally one of the trump cards of the Sea God clan. However now, this guy had been seriously injured by Kong Shinmu's tens of thousands of consecutive attacks. It was impossible for him to participate in the arena battle for the next 2 days. He would be like the Demon Snake Prince back then, following in the footsteps of the Demon Snake Prince. The Sea God clan had lost a general. Moreover, this made the other races need to think carefully before sending out their experts to deal with Kong Shinmu. This was because if they were not careful, they would be like the Demon Snake Prince and the expert from the turtle tribe of the Sea God clan. They would be seriously injured and lose the opportunity to participate in the arena battle. Was it worth the price to pay to challenge Kong Shinmu? Without a doubt, it was not worth it. Targeting Kong Shinmu could be said to be the common goal of the various races. However, when there was a certain amount of risk involved, the various races would definitely make some assessments to avoid the risk. Therefore, for a moment, no one targeted Kong Shinmu and stepped onto the arena to challenge Kong Shinmu. At this time, Xueqi had already been defeated by an expert from the Demon God clan. That expert from the Demon God clan was a Black Dragon Demon. The Black Dragon Demon was not an inheritance of the Divine Dragon clan. Instead, like the Heaven Awakening Demon Dragon, it was an inheritance of a demon dragon's bloodline. This Black Dragon Demon was extremely strong, and it was very likely that he was on par with Huang Yun. This Black Dragon Demon, who was at the 9th stage of the Emperor realm, seemed to like to bully women. He had directly attacked 2 beautiful women in the arena. One of them was Xueqi. Xueqi was defeated by this Black Dragon Demon and was seriously injured. He was directly thrown out of the arena. This treatment could be said to be completely different from that of Kong Shinmu. Of course, if Kong Shinmu had encountered this Black Dragon Demon, his fate would have been similar. However, Kong Shinmu's luck was slightly better. He actually encountered the genius of the Sea God clan's turtle tribe, who was mainly proficient in defense. Therefore, it could be said that Kong Shinmu relied on his skills to win and intimidate the surrounding people. Of course, the Black Dragon Demon seemed to be very interested in Kong Shinmu. He looked at Kong Shinmu from afar. Unfortunately, this Black Dragon Demon only had one last chance to attack the arena. He couldn't waste it like this. It was very likely that the Black Dragon Demon would continue to defend the arena. However, whether he could defend the arena was a problem. After all, there were many experts at the 9th stage of the Emperor realm. He wasn't the only one. Not to mention, if Huang Yun attacked him, he might not be able to defend the arena. Thus, this Black Dragon Demon still had one last chance to attack the arena. He had to stay until the end and win a spot to stand on the last 16 arenas. Kong Shinmu didn't need to worry about encountering this Black Dragon Demon for the time being. However, he soon encountered a powerhouse. This was a beautiful powerhouse from the ancient Phoenix clan. This beautiful powerhouse directly arrived at the arena where Kong Shinmu was. She cast a curious smile at Kong Shinmu. Chapter 4872. The beauty of the ancient Phoenix clan appearing on Kong Shinmu's arena surprised Kong Shinmu. He could see that this beauty seemed to know him. My relationship with the ancient Phoenix clan is that I killed many opponents from the Monster God tribe, the Void Human tribe, and the Talisman Water tribe at the Martial Dragon Fortress. Afterwards, I obtained a reward from the ancient Phoenix clan. Could it be that this beauty knows that I killed those geniuses of the Void Human tribe? Kong Shinmu thought to himself. Whether or not his thoughts were true, no matter what, he was currently on the arena. Since this beauty had appeared on the arena, it meant that she wanted to challenge Kong Shinmu. A battle was unavoidable. Come, let's fight. Kong Shinmu transformed into a pitch-black divine dragon and swept towards the ancient Phoenix clan beauty at the fastest possible speed. As for the beautiful ancient Phoenix clan woman, she directly turned into a flame phoenix. The power of the flame phoenix suddenly erupted, and waves of flame surged outwards, forcing Jiang Shenwu back. It was obvious that this ancient Phoenix clan beauty was very strong. She had even reached the level of Huang Yun. But Kong Shinmu could feel that this beauty didn't seem to want to defeat him. Otherwise, she wouldn't even need to use her full strength to send him flying off the arena. It can't be? Could the Dragon God tribe be related to the ancient Phoenix clan? Kong Shinmu felt this was unbelievable. However, Kong Shinmu didn't have time to think about this possibility. This was because the fierce battle had already begun. 9th Stage Ultimate Hydra Dragon Explosion. The 9th Stage Ultimate Hydra Dragon Explosion that he had cultivated to its peak was displayed at this time. Moreover, he used the power of the Voidwalker Ghost Tome to hide it in the void. Then, it suddenly erupted beside the ancient Phoenix clan beauty. The terrifying 9th Stage Ultimate Hydra Dragon Explosion was more than twice as powerful as the last one. At the same time, the 9th-stage Thunder Dragon burst forth in almost an instant. This power had been amplified by the Voidwalker Ghost Tome's more than 300 battle runes, reaching the limit of what Kong Shinmu could unleash right now. But, the ancient Phoenix clan woman that had transformed into a flame phoenix seemed to be bathed in raging flames. Layers upon layers of raging flames condensed into feathers, and these feathers seemed to possess an extremely potent resistance. They completely isolated the might of Kong Shinmu's 9-layered Ash Dragon explosion, making it impossible for it to injure her. What a strong defense! Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. It had to be said that this defense was almost on par with the expert from the Turtle clan of the Sea God clan. However, it looked even more dazzling and resplendent than the expert from the Turtle clan. This beautiful woman from the ancient Phoenix clan was extremely strong. I am the ancient Phoenix clan's Morong Lieni. Kong Shinmu, I know you. The ancient Phoenix clan woman that had transformed into a flaming phoenix smiled at Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu, you have many things on you that I gave you, including the hidden Black Dragon Stone. Of course, it seems that the hidden Black Dragon Stone is no longer on you. So it's you. Kong Shinmu was suddenly enlightened. It seemed that this beautiful woman Morong Lieni was already quite familiar with him. When he was at the Martial Dragon Fortress and participated in the Void Race War of the Martial Dragon Continent, the backer behind his Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy was the ancient Phoenix clan. Along the way, Kong Shinmu had obtained many benefits from the ancient Phoenix clan. Many of the cultivation resources, including the hidden Black Dragon Stone, were taken out by the ancient Phoenix clan. These were useless to the ancient Phoenix clan and were the creations of the dragon gods. Thus, they took them out to reward those who had contributed to the ancient Phoenix clan in the war. Kong Shinmu had contributed the most. Kong Shinmu just didn't expect that the one in charge of the ancient Phoenix clan's affairs was a beautiful woman like Morong Lieni. She was only at the 9th level of the martial emperor level. Shouldn't this kind of thing be handled by a transcendent powerhouse? Or, could it be that the matter regarding Kong Xinmu had not risen to that level? Could it be handed over to Murong Lieni to solve? The one in charge of the battlefield affairs is my master. Murong Lieni smiled again and said, Kong Xinmu, I didn't expect you to grow to this stage so quickly. You should have completely grasped and consolidated the power that you have obtained from breaking through realms, right? Then, leave this arena to me for the time being. What? Kong Xinmu didn't know what she meant. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Murong Lieni directly erupted with a terrifying flame towards Kong Xinmu. This flame could even burn the void. It appeared around Kong Xinmu and swept towards Kong Xinmu, burning the void. This scene caused Kong Xinmu's expression to change. He knew that after the exchange, the other party planned to fight with him. He was obviously not her match. However, Murong Lieni was the same as Huang Yun. She didn't use her ancient Phoenix clan's battle weapon. Instead, she directly displayed her own martial skills to attack Kong Xinmu. Just like this, Kong Xinmu felt an unparalleled pressure. This pressure was too strong, so strong that Kong Xinmu almost couldn't breathe. Because the surrounding void was burning, Kong Xinmu's perception and connection with the void outside was blocked. Now, he couldn't even use Sunset Shadow Flowing Flash. This method was too strong. At this moment, the boundless power of flames had formed into a spherical fire net, and then it had completely enveloped Jiang Shenwu in the center and was continuously approaching him. Jiang Shenwu had already been surrounded by the waves of burning flames in the void. The others outside the arena couldn't see Kong Xinmu's current situation. After all, the flames had already enveloped Kong Xinmu's entire black dragon body. At this moment, Kong Xinmu could only forcefully resist and defend. Devouring power. Taking advantage of the fact that the waves of flames hadn't closed in yet, Kong Xinmu took the initiative to release his devouring power and began to devour the flames in one direction. As long as he could completely devour the flames, then he could use the power of Sunset Shadow Flowing Flash to perceive the power of the void, and then flash away from the encirclement of the flames. However, Kong Xinmu's thoughts were a bit too optimistic. Murong Lieni's strength was too strong. Even if Kong Xinmu only devoured one direction of the flame cage martial skill, he still wouldn't be able to devour it. This was because Kong Xinmu's devouring speed couldn't keep up with the speed of his opponent's flames. No matter how much power of flames he devoured, the same amount of power of flames would immediately burn from the void. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.